Oh, wait, I forgot to... I forgot 2 things! I'm such a silly goose! I got so excited! Hi, Ren! Thank you for the resub! It's okay, don't worry. I just forgot to connect the Papa Cups. My little Papa Cups! 20K. I will tilt 3 next month. Aside from Cinderpelt though, any more major deaths? Hawkfrost. Hawkfrost is dead. Bramaclaw has murdered him. Is it a murder? If it's in self-defense? A manslaughter? A cat slaughter? Maybe? I don't know. Wait, was it in self-defense? Was Hawkfrost actively attacking him, or was he gonna attack Firestar? I can't remember, actually. That situation ever kind of... Second-degree murder. Second-degree murder because he was protecting Firestar. Guys! Oh wait, I still haven't even started it! I'm so distracted. Second-degree cat slaughter. Oh boy, more deaths for the death counter. Can you see how drastically different the deaths amounts were? It's insane. Gonna filter you guys a little bit. It's like half less kills. I think the reason is, I don't know actually, because I was gonna say there were more prominent deaths in the second series, like really big deaths that had everybody mourning, but there were a lot of really big deaths in the first book. Like all the main guys were dead. Lionheart, Blue Star, Feathertail, Spotted Leaf. What was the other one? White Storm? Those are big guys. Tiger Star? Scrooge? So many. That's already 8 on my fingies. Redtail? Bonkers. The errands are probably like, okay, guys, if we're gonna continue, we have to keep cats. we need a plot. We need cats. Although they're not running out of cats. They can just get more cats. Oh no, I know the terror of the lake bed caves on Amber Twin. Were the lake bed caves scary? You got stuck in a room with sand? What about just the like portals and stuff? Not the portals, the tunnels. The tunnels were the hardest part for me. Did I have an Nanaimo bar and some juice? We're starting Warriors, the site today. My favorite Warrior Cat series. This book is near and dear to my heart. I used to keep it in my school desk just because I was that fond of it. And one time, my friend didn't have a book to read during book reading hours, and I had this book as a spare book, and I gave it to her to read, and this was the book that got her into Warrior Cats. She read them out of order, but she was addicted just like me. So stunning. Thank you for the Guaso Pride! Oh, I have found the big tower on Giant Steep first, so I was able to deal with the teleporting cacti. Oh. That's pretty smart. That's like interesting to see. What was the very first planet you went to, Cordy? So yeah, this book, you guys are gonna meet, you're gonna meet my favorite cat, J-Kit. Dark Bramble. Classic. Cheese? What kind of cheese? I'm gonna judge your cheese taste. But I think, Phil, I think your cheese taste is a good cheese taste. Little Gouda bites. Gouda. 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 I guess Gouda's okay. Gouda's okay. Gouda reminds me of I've gotten so many spoilers from the Clock app and I refuse to acknowledge them. The Clock app? Smoked Gouda. I've eaten a pound of feta in the last, oh my god. Okay, but Pappy, I understand. If you get really good fresh, like freshly cut feta cheese in like a brick, like the size of a brick, and you cut it, it's like velvet, you know? It's like velvet. And you can just eat it and it falls apart in your mouth and it doesn't feel like you ate it at all. And so you can just keep eating it. Oh my god, it's insane. Oh my god, forget cutting it. I'm just taking bites. But when you cut it, it's even more. You get like, okay, cutting it is good because you can see how it cuts. And that in itself is so satisfying to see. Because it's so pretty. It's so pretty, guys. I'm putting slabs of it on piles of green. If you have like a pita bread, something like a pita bread, and you smear it on the pita bread, that's really good too. That's really, really good. My sister used to get giant pounds of feta and then like humongous pita bread rolls and like just like massive size. Like it was like at least 4 feet long of this like pita bread type stuff. And she would just eat it all immediately. It was a delicacy. Yeah. The deli by my house has feta. My gosh. You know what? Now I want feta. But you can't just get it from a grocery store, right? You need to get it from a deli or someplace that really knows feta. Sounds amazing. Both Pappy and Nono. Gosh, guys, now I want feta. Keep talking about feta cheese. I understand, like, cheese nerds. Have you ever thought about being like a cheese nerd? Like one of those charcuterie board masters? Like to know what kind of sauces and meats match well with the cheese. Maybe even like wine, I don't know. I don't need the wine stuff, but the other stuff is pretty cool. You could be like, oh yeah, if you have like this cracker with this cheese, with this jam sauce on top, it really brings out this flavor of the cheese, you know? And then you taste it and you're like, you're right, it does. You get random samples of cheese? What the? We got a charcuterie board as a thank you from a client one day. They were fancy and had some kind of marbled smoked cheese that had red on it. Tasted amazing on cracker with jam. Lactose intolerance and Snow's clues. Yeah. It's true though. It's true. It depends on the cheese, honestly. It really does depend on the cheese. Because feta cheese doesn't upset my stomach. But like a really richer cheese might, like brie might. Something that's close to brie, like very like creamy, melty type. Also, the texture for brie is insane. Okay, do you eat the wax off of your cheese? Should you eat the wax off your cheese? No. The what? The wax. We appreciate the enthusiasm, but unfortunately the wax isn't meant to be eaten. Well. Can, yeah, should, no. We appreciate. Cheese rinds, that's it. What cheese rinds should you eat? Can you eat, I guess. Like, I wouldn't eat Gouda cheese rinds. I eat brie cheese rinds. The 4 types of cheese rinds. Hey, if you don't die. The best cheese have natural rind, not wax. You know what? You're real for that, Pappy. You're really real for that. Yes, the rind is generally safe to eat, unless there is wax, cheesecloth, or paper in the rind. Bivin says you don't need to worry about getting sick if you eat it. Ah, what is a rind anyways? The cultures are good for your gut. Aha! Anytime someone tells you not to eat cheese rind, say it's good for your gut. Not only is the rind safe to eat, but trying it out will actually aid your appreciation to the cheese. Bivin says that when he's tasting cheese with people less familiar with cheese than he is, which is most people, he always encourages them to sample a little bit of the rind in order to better understand what the cheesemaker was trying to accomplish with the flavors of the final product. Whoa. PG! Hi! Thank you for the sub! 19 months, holy. In Parma, Italia, they feed Parmigiano Reggiano rinds to the pigs to make prosciutto di Parma. Whoa, that was fancy. Free fiber. There are 4 types of cheese rinds. Okay. First type, of course, is the non-edible wax, bark, or paper. Bark? Tree bark? Every other rind is safe to eat. The second is bloomy rind, which you'll find on cheeses like brie or camembert. Bivin says a bloomy rind is generally snowy white. I like those rinds. The third is the washed rind, which usually takes on a sticky texture and a reddish orange color, and most commonly appears on what people think of as stinky cheese. In Bivin's experience, this type of rind often freaks people out. But rest assured that it's simply created by a secondary culture introduced by the cheesemaker, working on top of the cheese. Finally, there is natural rind. This forms naturally on cheese during the aging process and is typically found on cheddar and Parmesan cheese. The more you know. So rinds are kind of made via what the cheesemaker puts in the cheese. Interesting. Stinky cheese is called... No! I hate stinky cheese. It's so stinky. I'm really like sensitive to smells when I eat, so I can't like if it's a stinky cheese and it's so stinky, then I can't not taste the stinky. You know what I mean? I'm not tasting the cheese anymore. I'm tasting the smell. A lot of the times, if I really dislike food and I know I have to eat it, I just plug my nose because that's how much of an influence my nose is. And it already is a big influence on like people, but I feel like mine is like extra sensitive. I've had some really stinky cheeses and they're a little much for me. I'm the same. Phil just started playing Baldur's Gate 3. I like it when that happens. Like when I'm streaming and then a viewer starts playing a game. I'm calling you out. I'm mod testing. Nice. I did a bunch of mods on my Baldur's Gate, which I think not too many. I got mods of like the UI stuff, the camera, the WASD, and then the clothing one, so I could dress up my main cast in cute clothes. And then I got the WASD. Yeah, the WASD. Isn't that how people say it? That's how I say it. The WASD. Wazda. Really? It's Wazda? Wazdi. Wazdi. I feel like everybody says it differently. I like the Wasa. Wasad. These nuts. Wasad. Wazed. 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 But there's no Z in there, so you have to pronounce the S more. Wasad. Was said. Was said. Was. Guys, why are we talking so much about cheese and wasads when we have the site to read? This is Deepa. We have to read my favorite book, and we have to meet J-Kit, my favorite kit. And Cat. You have to meet him. Yeah, let's read! Woo! I've been trying to think of what I was gonna give the voices for the 3 cats, so we'll have to test them out. I'm thinking of giving J-Kit the same kind of tone as I give Tawny Pelt. J-Kit! 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 He's a baby! Silly goose. XIV PSD. PSD. PTSD. All right. Let's begin. Let us begin. The Warrior Cat Journey. Warrior Cats, the site. As usual, at the beginning of new series or new books, Aaron Hunters usually do pretty well at recounting... Where did our music go? Oh, there it is. We got a little bit of a hiccup there in the music, but you know how it is. It's fine. They do a pretty good job at recounting every single thing that happened up until that point when the relevancy is needed, so they'll probably get a good rundown of what's happening. Prologue. Muddy tree roots shaped a small opening. In the shadows beyond, the knotted tendrils cradled the smooth soil floor of a cave, hollowed out by moons of wind and water. A cat padded up the steep path towards the opening, narrowing his eyes as he neared. His flame-colored pelt glowed in the moonlight. His ears twitched, and the bristling of his fur gave away his unease as he sat down at the mouth of the cave and curled his tail across his paws. "You asked me to come?" From the shadows, a pair of eyes blinked at him, eyes as blue as water reflecting the summer sky. A gray tom, scarred by time and battle, was waiting in the entrance. Who is this? Firestar. The warrior stepped forward and brushed the ThunderClan leader's cheek with his white flecked muzzle. "I have to thank you." His mew was hoarse with age. "You have rebuilt the lost clan. No cat could have done better." "There's no need for thanks." Firestar dipped his head. "I did only what I had to." The old warrior nodded, blinking thoughtfully. "Do you think you have been a good leader for ThunderClan?" Firestar tensed. "He's gone. I don't know what... Or sorry, that's the wrong voice. Also, how is the bird song in the background? Is it like too pitched or is it okay? Because I'm using a new bird sound. It's kind of long. It could be a tad quieter. How's that? Yeah, I'm using a new one because I change it every time we do a new series. The rustling bird song of the forest. Better? Good? Okay. Firestar tensed. "I don't know," he mewed. "It hasn't been easy, but I've always tried to do what's right for my clan." No cat would doubt your loyalty, the old cat rasped. But how far will it go? Firestar's eyes glittered uncertainly, as he searched for the words to answer. There are difficult times ahead, the warrior went on before Firestar could reply, and your loyalty will be tested to the utmost. Sometimes the destiny of one cat is not the destiny of the whole clan. Suddenly, the old cat rose stiffly to his paws and stared past Firestar. It seemed that he no longer saw the ThunderClan leader, but gazed far beyond, to something Firestar could not see. When he spoke again, the ancient rasp was smoothed from his voice, as though some cat had used his tongue. There will be 3, kin of your kin, who will hold the power of the stars in their paws. I don't understand, Firestar meowed. Kin of my kin? Why are you telling me this? The old warrior blinked, his gaze fixed once more on Firestar. You must tell me more, Firestar demanded. How can I decide what I ought to do if you don't explain? The old cat took a deep breath, but when he spoke, it was only to say, Farewell, Firestar. In seasons to come, remember me. Firestar jerked himself awake, his belly tight with fear. He blinked with relief when he saw the familiar stone walls of his den in the hollow by the lake. Morning sunlight streamed through the split in the rock. The warmth of his fur soothed him. He heaved himself to his paws and shook his head, trying to dislodge the dream. But this was no ordinary dream, for he remembered being in the cave as clearly as if it had happened a moon ago, rather than the many, many seasons he had lived since then. When the old warrior cast the strange prophecy, Firestar's daughter had not been born, what is this saying? When the old warrior cast his strange prophecy, Firestar's daughters had not been born, and the 4 clans had still lived in the forest. The prophecy had followed him on the great journey over the mountains and settled with him into his new home by the lake, and every full moon the memory of it returned to fill his dreams. Even Sandstorm, who slept beside him, knew nothing of the words that he had shared with the ancient cat. Oh. He gazed out from his den at the waking camp below. His deputy, Brambleclaw, was stretching in the center of the clearing, flexing his powerful shoulders as he clawed at the ground. Squirrelflight padded towards her mate, greeting him with a purr. I pray that I'm wrong, Firestar thought, and yet his heart felt hollow. He feared the prophecy was about to reveal itself. The 3 have come. So what the heck is wrong with my bird song music? Experiencing interruptions? Find out why. Now! Just fix it. There we go. Okay, so I guess what that was trying to say is that I forgot that it's kind of confusing. Yeah, I guess what it was trying to say was that years ago, when they were still in the forest, when he was first... We're getting a different one. This bird song sucks! Relaxing nature ambience meditation. Good morning, spring nature therapy. Flowery meadow healing sounds. This is too quiet. Jungle nightlife sounds. Cascades. Singing and other sounds of night creatures. Oh my god, this is 9 hours long. Actually, it's 10 hours long. This one's pretty good. Maybe we'll do this one. Hopefully it doesn't freeze. Is it too quiet now? Curses out birdsong video. It sucks! Is it too quiet now, though? How's that? Maybe that's good. Yeah, so I'm guessing that that prologue was supposed to be like Firestar got that right after he finished kind of like saving the clan. Probably at the end of the first series, he got that dream from some random old cat. But he didn't know what it was about until then. Like, you know, like he got reminded of it every now and again. Are you hearing this? What kind of creature is that? What kind of creature is making that sound? A frog, you think? Kind of sounds like a guinea pig. Yeah, so... And then he gets reminded of it every moon. So he never forgets the staying dream. And now finally he realizes his children have children, maybe. All right. Chapter 1. My reading is a bit fumbly today because I'm so excited. So crazy that it's only now just mentioned. It's definitely because they're trying to, you know, like backpedal, you know, like, oh yeah, this has happened this whole time, but nobody knew. They were better at the foreshadowing during the other series about something else. Okay. Which hasn't happened yet, but I'll point it out when it does happen. All right. Chapter 1. It's Jake, guys. Leaves brushed Jake-Hit's pelt like falling snow. More crackled under paw, stiff with frost and so deep that he struggled with every step. An icy wind pierced his fur, still nursery soft, and made him shiver. Wait for me, he wailed. He could hear his mother's voice ahead, her warm body always a few steps out of reach. You'll never catch it. A high-pitched mew... Oh, who was that? A high-pitched mew sliced into his dream, and Jake-Hit woke with a start. He pricked his ears, listening to the familiar sounds of the bramble nursery. His sister and brother scrabbling in prey. Ferncloud lapping her dozing kits. Her dozing kits. Oh my gosh, okay. Bear with me. I can't read today, I guess. I can't read today. I'm gonna start over to this paragraph. You'll never catch it. A high-pitched mew sliced into his dream, and Jake-Hit woke with a start. He pricked his ears, listening to the familiar sounds of the bramble nursery. His sister and brother scrabbling in play. Ferncloud lapping at her dozing kits. There was no snow now. He was in the camp, safe and warm. He could smell his mother's nest, empty but still fresh with her scent. Oof! He let out a gasp of surprise as his sister, Hollykit, landed heavily on top of him. Watch out! You're awake at last! She rolled off him and pushed her hind paws back into his flank. With a leap, she twisted away and grasped for something just out of reach. Mouse! Jake could smell it. His brother and sister must be playing catch with fresh kill newly brought into camp. He sprang to his paws and gave a quick stretch that sent a shiver through his small body. Catch this, Jake-Hit! Hollykit mewed. The mouse whistled past his ear. Slow slug! She teased as she turned too late to grab it. I've got it! Lionkit called. He pounced on the fresh kill, his paws thudding on the nursery's packed earth floor. Jake-Hit wasn't going to let his brother steal the prize from him so easily. He might be the smallest in his litter, but he was fast. He leapt towards Lionkit, knocking him out of the way and stretching his forepaw to reach for the mouse. He landed in a clumsy skid and rolled over, feeling a jolt of alarm as he realized it wasn't moss underneath him, but the squirming warmth of Ferncloud's two tiny kits. Ferncloud gave him a shove, pushing him away with her hind paws. Jake-Hit gasped. Have I hurt them? Of course not, Ferncloud snapped. You're too small to squash a flea. Foxkit and Icekit mewled as she tucked them closer to her belly. But you three are getting too rough for the nursery. Sorry, Ferncloud. Sorry, Jake-Hit echoed, apologetic even though Ferncloud's comment on his size had stung him. At least the queen's anger would not last. She would easily forgive Kit she had suckled. When Squirrelflight's milk had not come, it was Ferncloud who had fed Jake-Hit, Hollykit and Lionkit in the moons before Foxkit and Icekit were born. It's about time Firestar made you apprentices and moved you to the apprentice den, Ferncloud meowed. If only. Lion Kit sighed. It won't be long, Holly Kit pointed out. We're almost 6 moons old. J-Kit felt the familiar surge of excitement as he imagined becoming an apprentice warrior. He couldn't wait to begin his training, but even without seeing Ferncloud's face, he could sense the flicker of doubt that prickled through the queen's pelt and knew that she was looking at him with pity in her eyes. His fur bristled with frustration. He was just as ready to become an apprentice as Holly Kit and Lion Kit. Ferncloud answered Holly Kit, unaware that J-Kit had sensed her moment of unease. Well, you're not 6 moons yet, and until you are, you can do your playing outside, she ordered. Yes, Ferncloud, Lion Kit replied meekly. Come on, J-Kit, Holly Kit called. Bring the mouse with you. The branches of the bramble bush rustled as she slid out through the nursery entrance. Hi, Mika. J-Kit picked up the mouse delicately in his teeth. It was newly killed and soft, and he didn't want to make it bleed. They could have a good, clean game with it yet. With Lion Kit close behind him, he scrabbled out after his sister. The barbs of the entrance tunnel clawed satisfyingly at his fur, sharp enough to tug at his pelt, but not so sharp that they hurt. Outside, the air smelled crisp and frosty. Firestar was sharp, sharing tongues with Sandstorm below the high ledge. Dustpelt sat with them. We should be thinking about expanding the warrior's den, the Dark Tabby advised his leader. It's crowded already, and Daisy and Sorreltail's kits won't be apprentices forever. Nor will we, thought J-Kit. Brightheart and Cloudtail were grooming each other in a pool of sunlight on the other side of the clearing. J-Kit could hear the steady lapping of their tongues like water dripping from a rain-soaked leaf. Like all the ThunderClan cats, their pelts were leaf-bare thick, but the muscles beneath had grown lean and scarce, with scarce prey and hard hunting. Hunger was not the only hardship Leaf-Bear had brought. Molepaw, one of Sorreltail's kits, had died of a cough that had not responded to Leafpool's herbs. Where was that? And Rainwhisker had been killed during a storm, struck by a falling branch. Off to a good start, guys. Off to a good start. I didn't even finish reading the sentence. There was another death in that same sentence. Brightheart paused from her washing. How are you today, J-Kit? J-Kit placed the mouse between his paws, safe from Holly Kit's grasp. I'm fine, of course, he meowed. Why did Brightheart have to make such a fuss over him? He had only been sleeping in the nursery, not out raiding ShadowClan territory. It was like she was always keeping her one good eye on him, eager to prove he was just as strong as his brother and sister. J-Kit flung the mouse high over Holly Kit's head. As Lion Kit thundered past him and grappled with Holly Kit to be the first to catch it, Squirrelflight's voice sounded from this side of the nursery. You should show more respect for your prey. Their mother was busy pressing leaves into gaps in the prickly walls that surrounded the queen's den. Daisy was helping her. Kits'll be kits, the white she-cat purred indulgently. J-Kit's nostrils flared at Daisy's strange scent. It was different from the clan-born cats, and some of the warriors still referred to her as a kitty pet because she had once lived in the horse place and eaten two-leg food. Daisy wasn't a warrior because she showed no signs that she ever wished to leave the nursery. Butterkits, Mousepaw, Hazelpaw, and Berrypaw were apprentices, and it seemed to J-Kit that they were as clan-born as any of his clanmates. They won't be kits much longer, Squirrelflight told Daisy, sweeping more leaves to her side with her long tail. The brittle, rustling noise reminded J-Kit of his dreams. All the more reason to let him enjoy themselves now, Daisy replied. J-Kit felt a wave of affection for the milky white she-cat. Though Squirrelflight was his mother, it had been Daisy who had warmed and washed him alongside Ferdcloud when clan duties had kept his mother away from the nursery. Squirrelflight had returned to her warrior duties soon after her kits had been born. Though she still had a nest in the nursery, she used it less and less, preferring to sleep in the warrior's den, where she wouldn't disturb the kits and nursing queens when she left on early patrols. Can you feel the draft now, Ferncloud? Squirrelflight called through the nursery wall. No. Ferncloud's voice drifted out through the tangle of branches. We're warm as fox cubs in here. Good. Squirrelflight meowed. Can you clear up here, Daisy? I promised Brambleclaw I'd help him check for loose rocks around the hollow. Loose rocks, Daisy gasped. It's good to have a solid defense. Squirrelflight's voice echoed a little as she gazed at the sheer stone cliffs that enclosed the camp on almost every side. But the frost might have loosened the stones, and we don't want them falling into the camp. Jacob's attention was distracted by the bitter stench of mouse bile that came from the elder's den. Leafpool must be removing a tick from longtail or mouse fur. A much nicer odor heralded the return of two of Daisy's kits. Mousepaw and Hazelpaw were bringing fresh kill back from a hunting expedition. They hurried excitedly into camp. Mousepaw carrying 2 mice and Hazelpaw with a large thrush in her jaws. They dropped them at the fresh kill pile. Dustpelt padded over to greet them. Looks like you did well, Hazelpaw, he praised his apprentice. You both did well. The apprentices purred, and Jacob noticed how much they sounded like their mother, as though their purrs were muffled by their thick, soft pelts. A sudden rush of wind and fur knocked Jacob off his paws. Are you playing with us or not? Hollykit demanded. Jacob leapt up, shaking himself. Of course I am. Well, Lionkit's got the mouse and he won't let me have it, Hollykit complained. Let's get him then. Jacob hared across the clearing towards his brother. He bundled into Lionkit and pressed him to the frosty earth while Hollykit dragged the mouse from Lionkit's claws. Unfair, Lionkit protested. We don't have to be fair, Hollykit squeaked triumphantly. We're not in StarClan yet. What? And you never will be if you keep playing with your food like that. Stormfur had paused beside them on his way to the warrior's den. His words were stern, though his voice was warm. It's Leafbear. We should thank StarClan for every morsel. Lionkit wriggled out from underneath J-Kit. We're just practicing our hunting skills. We have to practice. I can't get J-Kit's voice down. We have to practice, J-Kit added, sitting up. We'll be apprentices soon. Stormfur was silent for a moment. Then he stretched forward and gave J-Kit a quick lick between his ears. Of course, he murmured. I was forgetting. Frustration flared in J-Kit's belly. Why did the whole clan treat him like a newborn kit when he was nearly 6 moons old? He shook his head crossly. Stormfur wasn't even a proper ThunderClan cat. His father, Greystripe, had once been a ThunderClan deputy, but Stormfur had grown up with his mother's clanmates in RiverClan, and his mate, Brooke, had come from far away in the mountains. What right did he have to act superior? Hollykit's belly rumbled. How about we eat this mouse instead of playing with it? You two can share it, Lionkit offered. I'll get something from the fresh kill pile. J-Kit turned towards the heap of prey caught by the warriors that morning. A faint odor disturbed him. He took in a deep breath, opening his jaws to draw in the scents into his mouth. He could smell Hazelpaw's freshly killed thrush and Mousepaw's mice, their blood still warm. But below there was a sour smell that made his tongue curl. He padded past his brother, his tail held stiffly behind him. What are you doing? Lionkit asked. J-Kit didn't answer. He nosed his way in among the small dead bodies, caught hold of a wren and pulled it free. Look, he mewed, rolling the bird over with his paws. The creature's belly was alive with maggots. Ugh! Hollykit squealed. Leafpool emerged from the elder's den with a wad of moss in her jaws. J-Kit could smell the mouse bile on it, even over the stench of the rotten wren. She paused by the 3 kits. Well spotted, she praised them, dropping the bile-soaked moss at her paws. I know prey is scarce at the moment, but better to eat nothing than to eat something that will hurt your belly. J-Kit found it, Hollykit told her. Well, he saved me a patient, Leafpool meowed. I'm busy enough as it is. Break and friend Birchfall have white cough. Do you want help gathering herbs? Wait, no. Do you want help gathering herbs? I need him. His voice has to be like lower, like low, but not like deep low. Like just like, do you want help gathering herbs? Maybe like that, like flat. Do you want help gathering herbs? J-Kit offered. He had never been out of camp, and he was desperate to explore the forest. He wanted to smell boundary markers. Up until now, he had tasted only the weak scents of ShadowClan and WindClan carried from the borders on the pelts of ThunderClan patrols. He wanted to feel the breeze fresh off the lake, untainted by the scents of the forest. He wanted to learn where the markers were along each boundary, so that he could defend every post above his clan's territory. You could gather far more herbs with us to carry them back to camp, Lion Kit put in. You know you're not meant to leave camp until you're apprentices, Leafpool reminded them. But you'll need help if there are sick cats, J-Kit insisted. Leafpool silenced him by flicking the tip of her tail over his mouth. I'm sorry, J-Kit, she meowed. It won't be long until Firestar gives you your apprentice names, but until then, you'll have to wait like any other kit. J-Kit understood her meaning. Their father was the clan deputy, and their mother was Firestar's daughter. Leafpool was reminding them yet again that it did not entitle them to special treatment. His tail twitched crossly. Sometimes it felt like the rest of the clan went out of their way to make sure he and his littermates never got special treatment. It wasn't fair. I'm sorry, Leafpool meowed, but that's just the way it is. She picked up the foul-smelling moss and padded back to the medicine cat den. Nice try, Lion Kit whispered in J-Kit's ears, but it looks like we're stuck in camp for a little while longer. Leafpool always thinks she can win us over just because she brings wool for our nest from the moorland, J-Kit hissed, or pieces of honeycomb to lick. Why can't she just give us what we really want, a chance to explore outside the territory, or outside the camp? Hollykit swished her tail over the frozen ground. J-Kit knew she wanted to explore beyond the camp walls as much as he and Lion Kit did. But she's right, she mewed grudgingly. We must stick to the warrior code. They ate, sharing the mouse and a vole between them. As J-Kit washed his face afterward, drawing his paw over his ears to give them a thorough cleaning, he noticed Brooke emerging from the warrior's den to join Cloudtail and Brightheart in the sun. She carried a different scent from the other warriors, the scent of mountains and tumbling water. It seemed to make her the strangest of all cats who are not clan-born. Was it just her scent, J-Kit wondered, or was it something more he sensed in the mountain she-cat, some wariness that had never left her? He could not quite put his whisker on it, but he was sure that Brooke felt out of place here in the forest. A rustle in the thorn barrier that protected the entrance to the camp signaled Berrypaw's return. Daisy's third kit charged over to the fresh kill pile and threw down his catch, a plump wood pigeon. Where's Brambleclaw? Berrypaw called out to the kits. Brambleclaw was Berrypaw's mentor, and J-Kit could not help feel a small pang of jealousy that Berrypaw spent so much time training with Brambleclaw when his own paws ached to hunt in the forest with his father. He's with Squirrelflight, J-Kit replied. They're checking for loose stones. He pricked his ears, listening for the sound of his mother's and father's voice. But he could not hear them, but the breeze blowing down from the cliff behind the medicine den carried their scent. Up there, he told Berrypaw, lifting his nose towards them. You're sharp today, J-Kit, Berrypaw meowed. I wanted to show them my pigeon and ask him if we were doing battle training after sun high. Jealousy gnawed harder in J-Kit's belly. Why can't I be an apprentice now? You must be really good at hunting, Lion Kit sighed, clearly thinking the same thing. It's just practice, Berrypaw told them. Oh my god, the kitten paw is killing me. Look, he crouched down. This is how you begin. Lion Kit's belly swished against the ground as he tried to copy Berrypaw. Get your tail down, Berrypaw ordered. It's sticking up like a bluebell. Lion Kit's tail slapped against the frozen earth. Now pull yourself forward, smooth as a snake, Berrypaw commanded. You look like you've got wind, Hollykit crowed. Lion Kit gave a playful hiss and leaped at her, rolling her onto the ground. She fought back, purring with amusement, while Lion Kit pummeled her belly with his hind paws. They were so busy in their play fight that they did not notice the sudden noise outside of the camp. But J-Kit did. Cat paws were pounding towards the camp entrance. J-Kit recognized the scents of Spiderleg and Thornclaw. The patrol was returning, but something was wrong. The warriors drummed the forest floor and panic rushed, their scents bitter with fear. J-Kit's fur stood on end as Spiderleg and Thornclaw burst through the entrance. Firestar and Sandstorm were on their paws in an instant. What is it? Firestar meowed. Spiderleg drew in a deep breath, then announced, There's a dead fox on our territory. Itchy nose, itchy nose. Somehow I don't remember very much about Berrypaw at all. It's really weird. Like, I straight up, don't remember him. I must have been thoroughly distracted by J-Kit and the others. something in my eye. Also, I had a drink for the hydrate that Mika you gave me. Thank you so much. I remember up to his warrior naming ceremony. I can't even remember that. Chapter 2. Where? Firestar's meow was tense. By the sky oak. Thorncloud mewed, panting. It was killed by a trap. Jake had heard loose petables. Oh, I got silly goober disease at stage 11. Oh no, I have to give you this prescription clown nose rubber chicken and you're just your hat with bells on it. I'm so sorry I forgot this was today, but I'm here. Hi, Stucky! And hi, Mika! I'll gladly accept my prescription clown nose. I deserve it. It helps my itchy nose and my runny nose. Jake had heard the loose pebbles cluttering down the wall of the hollow. Brambleclaw was scrambling down into camp, followed by Squirrelflight. What's happening? He called. Thornclaw and Spiderleg have found a dead fox, Firestar explained, killed by a trap. Male, female. Female, Spiderleg told her. Told her? Oh. I don't know who that was. Then there must be cubs. There may be cubs, Brambleclaw growled. Jake was puzzled. What harm can a couple fox cubs do? He whispered to Hollykit. Cubs grow up into foxes, mouse brain, she hissed back. An adult fox can kill a cat. The fox had the scent of milk on her, Thornclaw reported. So there's definitely cubs, Firestar concluded. The warrior den rattled as Ashfur scrambled out. Where's this trap? Brambleclaw asked. Was that anxiety Jake had heard in his voice? Surely his father knew enough about two-leg traps not to be scared by them. No, Jake had decided it wasn't anxiety. It was something else. Some darker emotion Jake did not recognize. Thornclaw's answer broke into his thoughts. The trap is lakeside of the camp, not far from the sky oak. The cubs must be near, Brambleclaw guessed. Their mother will not have wandered far from them. What should we do? Ferncloud had emerged from the nursery. We can't let the forest be overrun by foxes. What about my kits? We must find the den, Brambleclaw replied without hesitation. If the cubs are very young, they'll starve without their mother, Firestar meowed. It would be best to kill them quickly. There was nothing malicious in the ThunderClan leader's voice. Firestar had to do what was best for his clan. What if they're old enough to survive alone? Hollykit asked curiously. Then they must be driven out, Firestar told her. They can't be allowed to settle in our territory. The cubs will be hungry by now, Ashfur pointed out. What if they ventured out of their den already? They might find the camp, Ferncloud gasped. The camp will remain well guarded, Firestar promised. I'll take Sandstorm and check the old Thunderpath up to the empty two-leg nest. Brambleclaw, you sort out the other patrols. The ThunderClan leader and his mate raced away through the prickly thorn barrier that shielded the camp from the forest. Thank you so much for the follow, Gadget! Storm for a brook, Brambleclaw called. Patrol outside the hollow. Ashfur, guard the entrance. Brightheart and Cloudtail paced in front of him. What do you want us to do? I'm guessing actually that was probably Cloudtail that asked. What do you want us to do? Head towards the ShadowClan border, Brambleclaw told them. The earth is sandy there, ideal for a den. Squirrelflight will lead you. Do whatever she tells you. There may be more traps, and Squirrelflight is the best at springing them. Take Cinderpaw, but keep her close to you. Cloudtail called his apprentice's name, but the young Grey Tabby was already charging across the clearing. Squirrelflight headed towards the entrance. J-Kit felt her warm pelt brush past him. Brambleclaw called to Thornclaw and Spider, these names are killing me today, guys. Go back to where you found the fox. See if you can trace its scent back to her den. Swirltail's Kit, Poppypaw, and Mousepaw were waiting expectantly, hardly able to stand still. Can we go with them? Poppypaw called. Yes, but do everything your mentors tell you, Brambleclaw warned. Jake felt their excitement crackle in the air like lightning as they headed out of camp after Spiderleg and Thornclaw. His paws itched with frustration. Nearly all the apprentices were out hunting down the fox cubs. It wasn't fair. He might be small, but he could still fight a cub. We're not going to be left behind, Lion Kit announced, echoing Jay Kit's thoughts. Brambleclaw! What? Brambleclaw's voice was impatient. Can't we do something to help? Lion Kit begged. We're nearly apprentices. Nearly isn't good enough, Brambleclaw replied. He must have seen a look of disappointment on Lion Kit's face, because his voice softened and he added, You, Holly Kit, and Jay Kit can help guard the camp. I'm taking Dustpelt and Hazelpaw to search the lakeshore. We need brave cats to make sure those fox cubs don't come into the hollow. If you scent or see anything strange, send Leafpool to fetch me at once. Okay. Lion Kit mewed eagerly. He hurried back to his brother and sister. We've got to guard the camp, he told them, in case the fox cubs try to get in. You don't think the fox cubs will really get this far, do you? Jay Kit mewed grumpily. There must be a ThunderClan apprentice behind every tree out there. Brambleclaw's just trying to keep us busy. Lion Kit sat down with a bump, like a leaf that had been dropped by the breeze. I thought he really wanted us to help. You never know, Holly Kit mewed. The fox cubs might head this way, and if they do, I bet we could smell them first, especially with Jay Kit helping. A surge of anger pulsed in Jay Kit's paws. You're just as bad as Brambleclaw, he snapped. Stop trying to pretend we're important to the clan when we're not. Holly Kit kneaded the ground with her forepaws. We will be important one day, she vowed. Lion Kit suddenly stood up and turned in an excited circle, his tail fluffing out. We'll be important today, he declared. We're going to chase those fox cubs off of ThunderClan territory ourselves. Holly Kit gasped. But if we leave the camp without permission, we'll be breaking the warrior code. We'll be doing it for the good of the clan, Lion Kit argued. How can that be against the warrior code? Jay Kit thought of something else. We're not warriors yet. We're not even apprentices. So why do we have to obey the warrior code? For real. A purr rose in Holly Kit's throat. If we did chase off those fox cubs, Ice Kit and Fox Kit would be safe, she mewed. Exactly. Lion Kit turned and padded into a shady part of the thorn barrier that cut the camp off from the forest. Jay Kit knew where he was headed. There was a small tunnel there that led to a place where the cats made their dirt. No one would question them using that way out. He doubted if anyone would even notice them slipping away. The clearing was deserted as the warriors and their apprentices went out about their guarding and patrolling duties. The elders, Mousefur and Longtail, were tucked away in their den, and Ferncloud was hiding with Daisy in the nursery. Leafpool was busy with the 2 white cough patients in her den. His heart pounding, Jay Kit followed Lion Kit through the narrow tunnel. No one saw us, Holly Kit whispered close behind him. He smelt the dirt place and veered away from it, following Lion Kit up the sloping bank away from the camp. Ashfur's paw steps rustled the leaves outside the thorn barrier where he was keeping guard. Can he see us? Jay Kit hissed. Not from where he is, Holly Kit reassured him. The barrier's blocking his view. And the other patrols won't see us if we stay off the main paths, Lion Kit meowed. But we don't know where the main paths are, Jay Kit pointed out. The ground beneath his paws felt strange, littered with leaves and twigs, unlike the smooth, clear ground out inside the hollow. We can guess where they are by where the scents are strongest, Holly Kit mewed. There's hardly any scents coming from up ahead. The slope is steep, and there aren't any tracks through the break-in. Let's go that way then, Lion Kit mewed. What do you think? Holly Kit asked Jay Kit. Thornclaw said they'd found the Fox Lake side of the camp, which is over there. He flicked the tip of his tail away from the slope. How do you know which way the lake is? Holly Kit mewed, sounding puzzled. I can smell the wind from the water, Jay Kit explained. It tastes fresher than the wind from the hills or the forest. The 3 kits ran back down the slope and began to climb a thickly wooded rise. The ground here felt damper under paw, and Jay Kit guessed it had less sunshine than the other slope. He shivered. Not scared, are you? Holly Kit teased. Of course not, he mewed. It's just cold out of the sun. They carried on up the slope until they reached the crest where the trees thinned out. Jay Kit felt the warmth of dappled sunlight flickering through the branches. His nose flared up in alarm. Stop, he warned. He stretched to sniff a break-in frond, trying to distinguish the many ThunderClan warrior scents. The warriors came this way a lot. I can't see anyone, Holly Kit mewed. We'd better be careful, though, Jay Kit urged. What if we bump into a patrol? If only it were Greenleaf, Lion Kit spat. Then there'd be loads more undergrowth to hide in. What about over there? Holly Hollykit mewed. The trees are thicker. And there are brambles, Lionkit finished. He darted forward with Hollykit and Jaykit following, away from the strong scented bracken and into the trees beyond. The air was clearer here, less laden with ThunderClan scents. The muscles in Jaykit's shoulders began to relax, and then he heard a familiar sound, Stormfur's rumbling yowl. Brooke! The Grey Warrior was calling to his mate. Get down! Jaykit hissed. Instantly, the kits crouched. Jaykit pressed his belly into the cold earth, aware of his heart thudding against the leaf mulch. The ground vibrated with approaching paw steps. They're coming this way, he whispered. How would they explain being this far from camp? Let's hide under that holly bush, Hollykit suggested. Lionkit was already padding towards it, and Jaykit felt Hollykit nudge him from behind, urging him forward. He hissed crossly and shot forward after Lionkit. Prickly leaves scratched his nose and ears as Hollykit shoved him under its low branches. They won't see us in here, she whispered. Stormfur's call sounded again. Let's head for the ShadowClan border. The warrior's voice sounded frighteningly close. Brooke answered him, her low mew only tail lengths away. Do you think they might be using the old fox den? Probably not, Stormfur meowed. It still reeks of that she-badger Squirrelflight chased off, but it's worth checking. If only Stormfur and Brooke smelled like ThunderClan cats, it would be easier to detect them, Lionkit complained. Well, we never have smelt them whatever their scent, Jaykit pointed out. The wind was blowing the wrong way. Shh, Hollykit warned. The warrior's paw steps were headed straight towards the holly bush. The branches quivered as Stormfur's pelt brushed against them. Jaykit flattened himself against the ground and closed his eyes. Come on, let's be quick, Stormfur urged his mate. Then we can head back and patrol the top of the hollow. The warrior paw steps faded away. Let's get out of here, Jaykit whispered. Which way? Lionkit asked. Jaykit smelled the air, once more tasting the fresh wind from the lake. Over there, he mewed, pointing with his tail. The kids set off again, keeping low. Lionkit led them along the winding route through the swaths of bracken and tangled undergrowth. Through here, he urged. Jaykit squeezed after him into a clump of bracken, its stems so knotted that he could only just manage to haul himself through the narrow gaps. I bet no warrior's ever gotten through here, he boasted. They should take us out on patrols all the time, Lionkit mewed. We could explore places they never get close to, Hollykit agreed. They scrambled under the arching roots of a sycamore, tunneling a path through the leaf litter bunched beneath it. Jaykit stopped. He could scent the fresh mark of spider-leg. Wait, he ordered. Thornclaw's patrol just passed this way. Immediately, the kids scrambled back into the shadowy hole they had borrowed beneath the sycamore roots. We must be heading in the right direction, Hollykit whispered. That must be the sky oak over there, Lionkit mewed. It's the tallest tree in the woods by a long way. Where's the patrol? Jaykit asked. Listen, Hollykit commanded. Jaykit could hear the patrol thrashing around in the bracken several fox lengths away. Then his fur bristled. He tasted the air, recoiling at the stench that bathed his tongue. It was a smell he'd never met before, but it sent a shiver down his spine. Can you smell that? He asked Lionkit and Hollykit. Ugh! Lionkit wrinkled his nose. It must be the dead fox, Hollykit guessed. We're near to the trap. Can you see it? Jaykit asked. Hollykit wriggled away from him. I can see over the root, she whispered from just above his head. The dead fox is lying under the oak. The patrol is beyond it, searching the bracken. They're looking in the wrong place, Jaykit mewed. He suddenly realized that despite the sense of the patrol and the dead fox, he could smell a far subtler and sweeter smell, milk. He was right there beneath the sycamore. The fox came past this tree, he told the others. I can smell her milk scent. We found her trail, Hollykit mewed. Lionkit scrambled out from under the roof. Let's follow it. It'll lead us to her cubs. Jaykit turned away from where Thornclaw, Spiderleg, Poppypaw, and Mousepaw were plunging through the forest, the frost-blackened undergrowth, headed out from the sycamore roots. He padded along the scent of the milk trail. Watch out, Lionkit warned. There are brambles ahead. His senses trained only on the milk scent, Jaykit had not noticed the spiky bush. I'll find a way through, Hollykit offered. She pushed into the lead and wriggled into the branches. But the trail leads around it, Jake objected. We can't afford to stay out in the open, Lionkit told him. We can pick up the scents on the other side, once there are brambles between us and Thornclaw's patrol. Reluctantly, Jake followed Lionkit as their sister found a narrow tunnel through the tangle of branches. He was relieved when they picked up the fox scent quickly on the other side. The trees were more widely spaced here. Jake could feel the wind in his fur, the sunlight reached down to the forest floor, mottling his pelt with warmth. The fox's milky scent grew stronger as they neared a clump of bracken that shielded a small lump in the ground. Jake scented a new smell. The cubs? Wait here, Hollykit ordered. Why? Lionkit objected. Just wait while I take a look behind this bracken. I'm coming too, Jake insisted. We don't want the cubs to know we're here, Hollykit mewed. If all three of us go blundering in, they'll know something's up and we'll lose the element of surprise. My golden pelt will blend in better against the bracken than your black fur, Lionkit pointed out. What about me? Jake meowed. We won't attack the den without you, Hollykit promised, but first, you and I will wait here while Lionkit finds the way in. Jake felt a twinge of frustration, but he knew Hollykit's plan was sensible. Come back as soon as you find it, he called in a whisper as Lionkit disappeared into the bracken. For the first time, he wondered if taking on the fox cubs was a wise idea. But how else was he going to persuade the clan that there was no need to treat him like a helpless kit? He strained his ears for the sound of Lionkit returning. It seemed an age before his brother finally pushed his way out of the bracken. The main entrance to the den is right behind this clump, Lionkit whispered, shaking leaves from his pelt. But there's a smaller entrance on the other side of the lump of earth, probably an escape route that leads into the back. Are the cubs inside? Jake asked. I didn't go in, but I could hear them crying for food. They must still be young then, Hollykit guessed. Otherwise they'd have come out by now. It'll be easier to flush them out if we go down the escape passage, Lionkit proposed. If we rush them, the surprise will be enough to get them out of the den, and we can chase them towards the border. Which way's the border? Hollykit asked. Lionkit snorted impatiently. There'll be a border whichever way we drive them, he snapped. ThunderClan territory doesn't go on forever. Let's get on with it before Thornclaw finds them and takes all the glory. He surged away into the bracken before either J-Kid or Hollykit could reply. He led them up the slope, out of the bracken, and over the top of the leaf-strewn mound of earth. The escape route is here, he announced, skidding to a halt. It's no bigger than a rabbit hole, Hollykit mewed in surprise. Perhaps that's what it used to be, Lionkit answered. Who cares, as long as we can fit down in it. Thornclaw's meow sounded in the trees not far away. The warrior patrol must have given up searching the bracken near the dead fox and were headed towards the mound of earth. Hurry! Lionkit hissed, or Thornclaw will find the cubs first. Taking a deep breath, Jake plunged into the hole. His earthen sides pressed against his pelt as he scrabbled down it. He didn't mind that there would be no light down here. He trusted his nose to lead him into the den. He could feel Lionkit pressing behind him, pushed onwards until he exploded into the fox's den. The air was warm and stank of fox. More than one. Jake let out a threatening hiss. Lionkit at his side in an instant spat ferociously, and Lionkit gave out a vicious yowl. Jake could not see the foxes, but as soon as he heard them scrambling to their paws, he realized they were far bigger than they had expected. Fear shot through him as the cubs let out a shrieking cry. They're huge, wailed Lionkit. Oh, let's get out of here, Jake screeched. He turned and shot back up the escape tunnel. The hot breath of a fox cub blasted his tail fur. Were Hollykit and Lionkit trapped in the den? He could not stop and turn to find out. The fox cub's jaws were snapping at his heels as it pursued him out of the hole. Wild with terror, Jake hurled down the bank and through the bracken. Thornclaw! He yowled. The warrior did not answer, and Jake fled towards the bramble thicket. He hoped the thorns would stop the fox, but it chased him into the bush. Thorns tore at Jake's nose and ears, but the fox plunged through them as though racing through grass. He floundered on, tearing free of the brambles and running for the camp. He could smell the familiar scents of the hollow and headed straight for them. The fox cub was still at his heels, growling and snapping. I must be near camp now, he thought desperately, his paws skidding on the loose leaves. Pain pierced his tail as the fox cub snapped at it with thorn-sharp teeth. Jacob dug his claws into the ground, running faster and faster until, without warning, the ground disappeared from beneath his paws. With a jolt of horror, Jacob felt himself plunging into empty air. "I've fallen into the hollow!" Rip, Jacob.
Warrior Cat Wednesday! Warrior Cat Wednesday! Hi, Moja!
Snack time.
Woohoo!
Chapter 3. Edgar. Who the heck is Edgar? Edgar Allan Poe? Jacob tried to move, but pain shot through his limbs and gripped his chest like claws. Panic flooded him. "I'm broken!" He tried to mew for help. "Hush, little one." Warm breath stirred his fur, and a soft nose nuzzled his flank. He figured it must be Leafpool, though she sounded strange. Perhaps the throbbing in his head was confusing him. Jacob knew he was in the cleft in the wall of the hollow that formed Leafpool's den. Moss softened the ground beneath him. Cold air flowed through the smooth rock walls, soft as water. Tendrils of brambles shielded the entrance. The scent of herbs filled the air. Instinctively, Jacob tried to distinguish one from the other. He identified juniper easily. Leafpool had fed it to Lionkit for a bellyache after he had eaten too much fresh kill. Borage he remembered from when Ferncloud had a fever after Icekit and Foxkit were born. Where were Hollykit and Lionkit? He couldn't smell them anywhere. He withered in his nest, trying to find them. "Lie still, little one." Jacob opened his eyes and saw a she-cat crouched beside him. He realized he must be dreaming. She wasn't a cat he recognized, but she had ThunderClan's scent. Her image was hazy, a jumble of shapes, but he could make out the beautiful orange and brown markings on her lithe body as she sniffed along his pelt. Her eyes were large and pale, one rimmed with darker fur than the other, and her molted face narrowed to a soft white muzzle. "Don't look so frightened," she told him. "You are safe." "What about Hollykit and Lionkit?" "They are safe too." Jacob let his head rest back on the moss as the she-cat continued to nuzzle his fur, gently touching every aching spot on his body. The parts she touched seemed to flood with heat, and he felt warm all over. "Drink now, precious," she urged. She dragged a leaf to his mouth. It held a tiny pool of water. It was cool and sweet and made him feel sleepy. He closed his eyes. When Jacob awoke, the she-cat was gone. His body still ached, but not as much as before. "You're awake!" Leafpool's voice surprised him. Where's the other cat?" he asked groggily. "What other cat?" "The one that brought me water to drink." He recalled the distinct molted markings on her body. She was a tortoiseshell with white muzzle. White muzzle. Tortoiseshell with a white muzzle. Leafpool's muse sharpened with interest. Jacob couldn't understand why Leafpool was just repeating everything he said. He tried lifting his head, but his neck felt too stiff and he winced in pain. "You'll be sore for a while," Leafpool had warned him, "but you were lucky that no bones were broken." She rolled a ball of water-soaked moss to his muzzle. "Here, you should drink something." "I'm not thirsty," Jacob mewed. "Told you, that other kid brought me some water." Leafpool pawed the moss away from his mouth. "Tell me about her," she prompted gently. Jacob started to feel uneasy, as if he might have done something wrong. He was puzzled by the tension in Leafpool's shoulders, and the way the tip of her tail stirred the moss-covered ground. I've never seen her before, but she smelled of ThunderClan, and she was here in your den, so I guessed it was okay to drink the water she gave me." There was a long pause, then, "It was Spotted Leaf." Leafpool meowed, "One of our warrior ancestors." "Like, in StarClan? I'm not dead, am I?" "No, of course not. It must have been a dream." "But why would I dream of a cat I've never met?" "StarClan works in its own ways. Spotted Leaf chose to come to you for a reason," Leafpool murmured. She turned away to tidy a wrap of herbs. "Think StarClan, your ancestors took pity on you," she told him briskly. "You could have died falling over the cliff. You were lucky you weren't badly hurt." I feel hurt enough, J-Kit complained. You have no one to blame but yourself. You never should have gone hunting foxes. You're mouse brains, the three of you. And most of all, what were you thinking leaving a camp like that? And you, most of all, what were you thinking leaving camp like that? Her irritation sparked anger in J.K. Ignoring his aching stiffness, he scrambled to his paws and glared at her. It's not fair, he snapped. I should be allowed to do the same things as any cat. None of you should have been outside the hollow, Leafpool pointed out. Hollykit and Lionkit have been in serious trouble with Firestar and Squirrel Flight. J-Kit opened his mouth to defend himself, but she went on. Thank StarClan that Thornclaw was close enough to save Hollykit and Lionkit from that den. Those fox cubs were old enough to have torn them to pieces. J-Kit lifted up his chin defiantly. We were trying to protect the clan. One day you will, Leafpool promised, but first you need to learn as much as you can, which includes learning not to go off by yourself. Do you think Firestar will delay my apprenticeship because of this? He mewed, suddenly anxious. Leafpool drew the tip of her tail gently around his ears and said nothing. You do, don't you? J-Kit wailed. Has Firestar said anything? Tell me. Dear J-Kit, Leafpool sighed. You must know that you can never become an ordinary apprentice like Hollykit or Lionkit. She ran her tail along his back. J-Kit shrugged it away. It was as though a gale had swept him up, and he could hear nothing but the rushing wind in his ears. He began to walk to the entrance of the den, but each paw step made him wince with pain. Leafpool called to him, sounding unhappy. J-Kit, wait. I thought you understood. Understood what? J-Kit whipped around to face her. That I'm not good enough to fight for my clan? This has nothing to do with you not being good enough, Leafpool mewed. There are other ways to serve your clan. But J-Kit hardly heard her. It's not fair, he raged. He started to push his way out through the brambles. J-Kit! Leafpool's voice was firm. Come back. Instinctively, J-Kit paused. You described Spotted Leaf to me perfectly. Have you always been able to see like that in your dreams? J-Kit tipped his head to one side. I guess, he mewed. What do you see? Depends on what I'm dreaming about. J-Kit was growing impatient. How could his dreams help him become a ThunderClan warrior? The hazy images he saw while he slept were pale in comparison to the rich world his senses brought to him while he was awake. Now tell me which herbs I used to treat you. Curious now, J-Kit padded back to his nest, focusing on the pungent smells that lingered on his pelt. Sniff slept by the herbs Leafpool had massaged into his wounds. Dock on my scratches and comfy where my body is stiff. You have a good memory for plants. There are other ways to serve your clan than being a warrior. You'd make a good medicine cat, for example. Medicine cat, J-Kit echoed in disbelief. Always stinking of mouse bile and cleaning up bad-smelling wounds? You could be my apprentice, Leafpool urged. I don't want to be a medicine cat, J-Kit hissed. I don't want to live a half-life, separated from my clanmates like you are. I want to be a warrior like Brambleclaw and Firestar. He turned away from Leafpool, bristling with fury. I hate being blind. I wish I had never been born. J-Kit. But no, J-Kit is completely blind. He can see in his dreams.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Sheen. I'm good.
You got here just in time. It's a break between the chapters. But yes, everybody, J-Kit is blind. That's why everybody is all, like, sensitive on him and stuff. He can't see. And everyone's, like, pitying him. And that's why all his, like, all his descriptions are, like, sense. Like, he smells things rather than sees things. Yeah, that's why he smells so good. He's good. He's got a good sniffer. Sheen? Sean. Sean? Is that it? Sheen? 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 Sean! Okay. I'm so sorry. Sneefa. That's J-Kit. It's fun reading his point of view because they describe things differently because he's blind, obviously. Except when he dreams. When he dreams, he can see things, but it's like I'm guessing the way that he sees things is kind of like if you don't have glasses on. It's kind of like blurry, but he can make out things.
He has a good sniffer snout. Yeah, he does. He's good at sniffy sniffy.
I remember when I first read this book and I got to that part where it's like, I wish I was never born blind. I was like, oh, what? And then I went back and I read it and I was like, that's why they were describing everything with sense. Oh my God. It was eye-opening for me as a child. Get it? Eye-opening. Chapter 4. He could sniff you out from a mile away. He could. That's what's really cool about him. I like him a lot, like, aside from his personality, which you'll see later is very grumpy and grungly. Not the eye puns. But, he clearly has skills that other cats don't have, like the ability to smell, but he's still treated like, you know, like he needs a handicap. Even though technically he can do a lot of stuff just based on his scent, even better than some people. It's crazy. He's my favorite character.
Yeah, J-Kid, rise up. Woohoo!
I love him. He's my friend. Actually, he wouldn't be my friend. If we were cats in a clan, he would hate me probably. Does J-Kid like anybody? I don't know. No! We'd be bestie. Chapter 4. I don't think he does like anyone. I think he likes his siblings. I think that's the only cats he likes. Yeah. That's it. We just complained together about that's true. The best way to get to J-Kit's heart is to complain. I'm sure he would like you. No, I don't think so. He's full of torment and angst. He's an angst boy.
No. Hi, Mika Ren. How's your COVID doing? Are you feeling better?
I like that emote. I want an emote like that. An uppies emote.
Uppies.
I think he'd tolerate you, though. True. He would tolerate. He does tolerate. That's most of... I feel like he doesn't... He dislikes certain cats, and he tolerates the rest of the cats, and he likes his siblings. Yeah. Keep much until you catch up. Yeah, I know. The spoilers. The little things. Okay, chapter 4. Hollykit waited at the center of the clearing where Brambleclaw had left her. The sun was sinking behind the trees, pulling a shadow across the camp. Lionkit sat beside her, his pelt golden in the fading sunshine. Cold air drifted down into the hollow, and Lionkit shivered. Suddenly, the brambles at the entrance of the medicine cat den trembled, and Hollykit saw the gray-shaped head of J-Kit poke out. She nudged Lionkit.
Look! He's okay.
He mewed with relief. Thanks, Darklan. J-Kit turned around and went back into the den. Leafpool must be keeping him in a bit longer, Hollykit observed. She dug her claws into the ground to stop her paws from trembling. At least she knew her brother was all right. But they still had to face Firestar. How was he going to punish them this time? She glanced around, hoping no cat was staring at them. Mousefur was leaning against the half-rock, a smooth, low stone that stuck out from the ground near the entrance to the Elder's Den. It would still be warm from the sun. Dustpelt was sharing tongues with Whitewing beside the thorn bush. And who the heck is Whitewing? Oh! Oh my god, Whitewing! That's Whitepaw. She was made in the warrior. Beside the thorn bush that formed the warrior's den, his apprentice, Hazelpaw, nodded to him before picking up a mouse from the fresh kill pile and carrying it over to the apprentice's den. Her littermate, Mousepaw and Berrypaw, were there already, eating. Hollykit caught Mousepaw's eye. The young gray and white Tom blinked sympathetically at her before looking away. Hollykit lifted her chin a little higher. She wasn't going to let any cat see how scared she was. She would take her punishment like a true warrior. She watched Sorreltail carry Feshkill to her mate, Breakenfur. The dark ginger Tom was resting beneath the high ledge, his breath hoarse after his bout of white cough. Sorreltail skirted the clearing, avoiding the kits, and dropped a mouse at his paw. "How are you?" she asked. Better, he croaked. "I'll be fine in a couple days. Birchfall's recovered already, thanks to Leafpool." "Well, at least you're not in the medicine cat den anymore." Sorreltail meowed gratefully. "Leafpool needed room for Jacket," Breakenfur reminded her. "Poor mite." Sorreltail meowed. "Do you think he'll be okay?" Hollykit felt a surge of irritation. Jacket had been as keen to chase off the fox cubs as she and Lionkit, but he was being fussed over in Leafpool's den, while she and Lionkit had to sit here for the whole clan to stare at. She gave a small snort of anger. "Have you got a tick in your ear?" Lionkit whispered. "No, but it's just not fair," she hissed back. "We wouldn't have been in so much trouble if Jacket hadn't fallen over the edge. Why does he have to act like he can do anything and then be so helpless?" "We shouldn't have taken him with us," Lionkit murmured. "Can you imagine the fuss he would have made if we hadn't?" Hollykit spat. But then she pictured her brother keeping up with them, finding the milk scent that led to the den they had been looking for, and guilt swept over her. He could have died. Oh my god, why are they talking down on him? Even his siblings? Insane. The thought pierced her heart like a thorn. The three of them always did everything together. Losing Jacket would be like losing her tail. She sighed ruefully. "None of us should have gone. I wish you realized that earlier." Firestar's meow took Hollykit by surprise. Tiny stones were still tumbling into the clearing where he had leapt down from the rockfall that led from his den. Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight followed him down and stood a little behind the ThunderClan leader. Hollykit's heart sank when she saw anger in her father's eyes and disappointment in her mother's. She stared down at her paws, remembering the disastrous ending to their assault on the fox's den. Thornclaw's patrol had arrived just in time to see her and Lionkit flee the den with 2 fox cubs at their heels. Thornclaw had yowled in surprise as she sped into the trees. But she dared not stop, fearing the snapping jaws behind her, till she hurled into Brambleclaw's patrol on its way back from the lakeshore. "What's happening?" Brambleclaw demanded. He had grasped her by the scruff as she tried to race past. "What are you doing out here?" Hollykit had tried to explain, but she'd been panting too hard, her heart thudding like a woodpecker on a hollow tree. Spiderleg caught up with her. "The kids found the fox cubs," the black warrior told Brambleclaw. "It seems they decided to organize a patrol of their own." Hollykit did not dare catch her father's eyes. "Where are Lionkit and Jacket?" Brambleclaw growled. "Lionkit's with Poppy Paw," Spiderleg reported. "He's okay. We haven't found Jacket yet, but the fox cubs have scattered. It's going to take a while to hunt them all out." Brambleclaw had glanced up at the sky and muttered under his breath, then escorted Hollykit and Lionkit unceremoniously back to the ThunderClan camp. But that had not been the worst part. When they'd reached the camp, White Wing and Leafpool were crouched at the edge of the clearing, their furs spiked in horror. Ferncloud trembled beside them, moaning a low, mournful yowl. Between them, Jacket lay on the ground like a scrap of gray fur. Brambleclaw darted forward and crouched beside his son. He nudged Jacket gently, as though he was trying to wake him from sleep, but his eyes were frantic with fear. "He's still breathing, and his heartbeat is steady," Leafpool told him. Brambleclaw stared desperately at Leafpool, then sat up. "Fetch Firestar and Squirrelflight," he ordered White Wing. After that, he had told Lionkit and Hollykit to wait in the clearing and carry Jacket to the medicine cat den. Firestar had returned with Squirrelflight, and the 3 warriors had disappeared, faces grim, into Firestar's den, not even glancing at Hollykit and Lionkit. Hollykit leaned against Lionkit as Firestar, Squirrelflight, and Brambleclaw lined up in front of them once more. She was glad she didn't have to face them alone. "Jacat's gonna be okay," Firestar told them. "I know," Hollykit answered. "We saw him." Firestar silenced her with a glare and went on. "But Thornclaw's patrol has not returned, which means they are still hunting the fox cubs." "What possessed you to leave the hollow?" Brambleclaw demanded. Firestar narrowed his eyes. "I know they're your kids, Brambleclaw," he meowed, "but I'll deal with this." Squirrelflight's tail flicked. Hollykit guessed that there were a few sharp words she wanted to share with their kits, but she held her tongue as Firestar spoke. We only wanted to protect the clan, Hollykit protested. Then do as you were told, Firestar growled. What if Jacob had died? Would that have helped the clan? His fierce gaze flickered from Lionkit to Hollykit, and they shook their heads. Firestar pressed on. You almost led the foxes right into the camp. As it is, you have given them a scent trail they're not likely to forget. We're sorry, Hollykit whispered. We thought that we could find the foxes. Lionkit began. If you'd thought at all, you would have let our warriors deal with the foxes and the clan would be safe now. Firestar lashed his tail. Instead, we have one badly injured kit and 3 hungry foxes who know where our camp is. Hollykit glanced guiltily at the nursery. Squirrelflight pawed the ground in small, frustrated steps. Firestar nodded for her to speak. I'm so disappointed in both of you. She burst out. What about Jake-Kit? Lionkit objected. We didn't force him to go with us. We'll speak to Jake-Kit when he's recovered, Brambleclaw answered. Right now, it's you two that concern us. You seem to have no more sense than hatchling chicks. Are you going to stop us from becoming apprentices? Lionkit asked in a small voice. Hollykit's breath caught up in her throat. Would their father really do that? She looked pleadingly up at him. If it were up to me, Brambleclaw meowed, I would make you wait another moon. But it's Firestar's decision. The clan leader narrowed his eyes. I'm not going to decide right now, he told them. Go back to the nursery. Ferncloud and Daisy will keep an eye on you, and it is up to you to make sure one of them knows where you are at all times. If you're not where you're supposed to be, and you're clearly not ready, then you're clearly not ready for the responsibilities of apprenticeship. We won't wander off again, Lionkit promised. Hollykit, I won't do anything that might stop me from becoming an apprentice, she bowed, meaning every word. Very well. Firestar meowed. Just hope you have learned something today. True warriors think of the clan's safety before anything else. He turned away, padding to where Brakenfern was sharing tongues with Sorreltail. His parting words sheared Hollykit's fur. She let her clan down. She glanced nervously at Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight. We're sorry, she ventured. I should hope so, Squirrelflight sighed. You should be setting an example, Brambleclaw added. Squirrelflight's gaze softened a little. She bent down and licked Hollykit and Lionkit each between their ears. I know you thought what you were doing was the right thing, she sympathized. We just wanted to help the clan, Hollykit insisted. Your chance will come, Brambleclaw promised. Will Jake-Kit have to stay in the nursery too? Lionkit asked. He'll stay with Leafpool until he's recovered, Squirrelflight told him. Then he can rejoin you. Will he be well enough in time for the naming ceremony? Hollykit mewed. If there is a naming ceremony, Lionkit added. Squirrelflight drew her tail over her son's flank. You know your brother can still... Squirrelflight drew her tail over her son's flank. You know your brother can't become a full apprentice. Hollykit stared at her mother. What do you mean? Well, it would be impossible to have a blind warrior, Brambleclaw began, but Hollykit turned on him, her paws prickling with fury. No, it wouldn't, she spat. Jake can smell and hear and sense everything that happens in camp. She glanced at Lionkit for support. It's like he can see things, but with his nose and ears instead of his eyes. She glared at her father, waiting for him to say something, but he only glanced at Squirrelflight, exchanged a look of sadness that made Hollykit tremble with indignation. Suddenly, she heard paw steps pounding towards the camp. A voice called from beyond the barrier. It was Thornclaw. The golden-brown tabby hurled through the thorns with spider-like Poppypaw and Mousepaw close behind. Firestar left Brakenfern and Sorreltail and padded over to meet them. Brambleclaw joined him. Any luck finding them? The deputy asked. Poppypaw and Mousepaw chased one of the cubs over the border into ShadowClan territory, Thornclaw reported, but there's no sign of the other two. Hollykit's ears burned with shame. The cubs were old enough to look after themselves, Thornclaw went on. They could cause a lot of trouble in the future. Ferncloud pushed her way out of the nursery. Are the fox cubs nearby? She fretted. No. Thornclaw shook his head. We made sure of that. There's no fresh scent on this side of the sky oak. Ferncloud looked a little comforted, but her eyes still twitched nervously, and she hurried back to her kids, who were mewling in the nursery. Hollykit caught Squirrelflight's eye. Her mother blinked at her sympathetically. Don't be so too hard on yourself, she murmured. Every cat makes mistakes. You just have to learn from them. I will make it up to the clan. Hollykit promised. I know you will, Squirrelflight assured her. Why don't you go visit J-Kit? I'm sure he'd love some company. Can I go too? Lionkit begged. I don't know if he's well enough for the both of you. Squirrelflight meowed. You can go later, but don't forget to tell Daisy or Ferncloud before you leave the nursery. That's what Firestar said, remember? Lionkit lashed his short tail, but didn't answer. Instead, he stalked towards the nursery. I'll tell J-Kit you said hi, Hollykit called after him. Whatever, Lionkit grumbled, not looking back. Squirrelflight definitely understands. She was that kit. Hollykit nosed her way through the brambles into the shadows of Leafpool's den. J-Kit was lying by the pool at one side of the den. He turned his shea feather blue eyes on her as she entered. Hi, Hollykit. His mew sounded tired. His pelt was slicked flat with policies, making him look as small as a newborn kit. Hollykit felt a stab of pain. He had nearly died. J-Kit flicked his tail. There's no need for you to feel sorry for me, he meowed. Hollykit blinked. How was it that her brother always knew exactly what she was feeling? Sometimes it could be so annoying to have him sniffing out her private thoughts like some inquisitive mouse. I'm not gonna die, he went on. I never thought you would, she lied. She patted to J-Kit's side and smoothed the fur between his ears with her tongue. What did Firestar say? J-Kit asked. We've got to stay in the nursery until he decides if we can become apprentices, Hollykit told him. If? J-Kit echoed. If we do as we're told and stay in camp, then I think we'll be okay, Hollykit assured him. She hoped it was true. She had never seen Firestar so angry. It has to be true. J-Kit struggled to his paws, then winced in pain. Are you all right? Hollykit mewed in alarm. Leafpool was mixing herbs in the far corner of her den. He's just sore, she meowed, but he's healing well. Leaving her work, she joined the two kits. I'll be giving him comfy to chew on. Is that what you were mixing there? Hollykit asked. I like to mix in a few heather flowers when I have them, Leafpool explained. The nectar sweetens the mixture and makes it easier to swallow. How did you learn all that? Hollykit mewed, genuinely curious. Cinderpelt taught me, Leafpool answered. There was sadness in her voice as she spoke about her mentor, but Hollykit was more interested in Leafpool's skill. Having so much knowledge must make her feel very powerful. No other cat in the clan knew herbs like she did. She had cured Breaking-Fur and Birchfall, and now J-Kit. Imagine being that important to the clan. Leafpool, Brightheart called from the den entrance. Breaking-Fur is coughing again. I'll give you some honey to take to him, Leafpool replied. Can you see to J-Kit for me, Hollykit? A wash will help his stiffness. Just avoid the polish patches. Okay. Hollykit wrinkled her nose at the thought of putting her tongue near the tangy-smelling goo plastered over her brother's pelt, but she began to wash him anyway as Leafpool fetched a leaf wrap from honey from the back of the den and gave it to Brightheart. Not so roughly, J-Kit complained. I'm sore all over. Sorry, Hollykit apologized, lapping J-Kit's pelt with softer strokes. You're not as gentle as Spotted Leaf, J-Kit moaned. Hollykit stopped licking. Who? Spotted Leaf, J-Kit repeated. Leafpool said she's one of our warrior ancestors. She came to me in a dream and poked me all over with her nose. How can you dream about a cat if you've never met her? Hollykit asked, puzzled. Leafpool patted back from the den entrance and sat down. Are you telling Hollykit about Spotted Leaf? J-Kit nodded. Who is she? Hollykit mewed. She was the ThunderClan medicine cat when Firestar first joined the clan, Leafpool explained. She died before I was born, and she comes to my dreams like she did with J-Kit. Hollykit noticed that the medicine cat's eyes were glittering with excitement. Spotted Leaf is very wise. She's never stopped looking after her clan. I guess that's why she came to see J-Kit, and why she still visits my dreams. Does Cinderpelt visit you too? Hollykit asked. Leafpool shook her head. Just Spotted Leaf. She helps me find the answers to questions that are worrying me, and she warns me if something threatens the clan. Hollykit was surprised to hear Leafpool talk so warmly about a cat she'd never met in real life. You talk about Spotted Leaf like she's a friend. Our warrior ancestors can be our friends. J-Kit let out a moan. I hurt. I'll fetch more comfy, Hollykit offered. She bounded over to the pile of herbs and carried a mouthful back to Leafpool. Thank you, Leafpool meowed. Can you fetch some poppy seeds, too? You'll see them at the back. They're tiny, round, black seeds. Okay. Hollykit hurried to the back of the den and searched among the piles of herbs until she found the poppy seeds.
How many?
She called. 5, Leafpool answered. Pick them up by wetting your paw and dabbing the pile. Hollykit followed her instructions, shaking the extra seeds from her pads, and hopped back to where J-Kit lay. He licked them from her paw, his eyes growing sleepy. Is he all right? She asked, worried. He will be, Leafpool reassured her, but we should let him rest. Hollykit did not want to leave the medicine cat den. Excitement was buzzing in her paws. Leafpool could cure sick cats and share tongues with her ancestors and warn the clan leader of troubles ahead. If Hollykit wanted to be important to her clan, perhaps becoming a medicine cat was the way to achieve it. After the disastrous adventure with the foxes, maybe she wasn't cut out to be a warrior at all. She padded away from J-Kit, but lingered at the bramble-covered entrance. Leafpool, she called quietly. Yes? Leafpool padded to her side.
When do medicine cats take on apprentices? Is it only when they get old?
Leafpool looked at her seriously. I can take on an apprentice any time.
But would your apprentice have to stay an apprentice until you
died? Hollykit couldn't make herself say the words out loud. Leafpool's whiskers twitched in amusement as she guessed what Hollykit was trying to ask. No, she purred. Once a medicine cat apprentice has learned enough, he can take his proper name and assume full responsibilities, even with his mentor still alive. Hollykit wondered why Leafpool had said he.
Do you have someone in mind already?
Leafpool flicked the tip of her tail. I've not decided anything yet. Before Hollykit could say anything else, she heard Ferdcloud calling for her in the nursery. You better go, Leafpool meowed. You've been in trouble enough for today. Her pelt prickling with frustration, Hollykit pushed her way through the brambles and raced back to the nursery. She had just discovered how she wanted to serve her clan, how to make sure what she did really mattered. She wanted to be the next ThunderClan medicine cat. Woo! Dang itchy nose. Firestar's blood, man.
You could say he has fire in his blood. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Dang my itchy nose.
Okay, chapter 5.
Oh my gosh, we're on page 69 right now.
Yeah, boy.
Wait, oh my god, this book is nearly 400 pages. I won't be able to get away with reading 100 pages each time and then being able to finish in 3 weeks. Dang. All right, I guess we'll have to read a little bit more. Not like I'm complaining or anything. Chapter 5. Lionkit woke in his nest. A draft ruffled his golden pelt. Where's J-Kit? J-Kit usually slept beside him, but there was an empty space there now. Then he remembered. Lionkit felt sickness surge in his belly as he pictured J-Kit lying limp at the side of the clearing. He's gonna be okay, he reminded himself. But in the clearing, watching Leafpool and Brambleclaw crouch by his body, Lionkit had thought that his brother was dead. A shiver ran down his tail. He nudged Hollykit, who was still sleeping beside him. Her black pelt was making her invisible in the darkness. It's cold without J-Kit. He'll be back soon, she murmured, not opening her eyes. But it's weird when he's not here. He's only in the other side of the clearing. He'll be back in a day or two. Hollykit rolled over. Go back to sleep. Within moments, her breathing deepened until she was just asleep again. Lionkit felt a tug of sadness. J-Kit should be with them, just like always. He closed his eyes, but the image of his brother lying in the clearing filled his mind again. It was my idea to leave the camp. J-Kit could be dead, or the fox cubs could have chased them into the hollow. What a mess! Lionkit got to his paws. He needed fresh air to clear his head. He peered through the shadows to where Daisy slept. Her long, creamy fur blended into Ferncloud's dark gray pelt. Ferncloud's whiskers were twitching as she dreamed. Her 2 kits snuggled against her flank. Neither queen would be pleased at being woken just so he could ask permission to leave the den. Besides, he'd be back before they woke. With a flick of his tail, he picked his way past the holly kit and squeezed through the prickly entrance. Cold night air stung his nose, and the frosty ground made his paws ache as he padded along the edge of the camp. Prey scents drifted from the forest. A bird chattered an alarm call far away. He glanced up at Silverpelt, spread across the inky sky. He was glad StarClan had let J-Kit stay down here with his clanmates. Perhaps he could look into his brother. Leafpool would be asleep by now. Lionkit kept to the shadows, painfully aware that he was not supposed to be outside the nursery without permission. As he crept along the stretch of thorn bushes that sealed the camp, his heart seemed to pound in his chest loud enough to make his clanmates. When he scanned the clearing, Lionkit realized with a start that he was not the only cat awake so late. A shape was stirring on the other side of the clearing. The lithe outline of a cat peeled away from the shadows, followed by another. Lionkit ducked under a branch, relieved to find a small space inside the prickly barrier where he could hide. He peered through the twigs at the emerging shapes. Dustpelt and Spiderleg were padding side by side into the pool of moonlight that lit the center of the camp. They're nearly here, the long-limbed warrior told Dustpelt. Good, Dustpelt meowed. Lionkit strained his ears, listening. Frozen leaves crackled beyond the camp wall. He felt the thorn barrier tremble as Stormfur and Brakenfur pushed their way through the entrance into the tunnel. Through the tunnel entrance and into camp, the Moon High Patrol had returned. Dustpelt hurried over to them. Anything to report? All quiet, Stormfur replied. Lionkit pressed himself further into the thorns. He could always say he had slipped out only to make dirt, but he was not ready yet to be sent back into the nursery. Brakenfur held a mouse between his teeth. He dropped it. It's good to be hunting out again, the golden tabby purred. Did you patrol the new border at the edge of the clearing? Spiderleg asked. Brakenfur nodded. ShadowClan have marked it well, he meowed. But there's no sign they strayed into ThunderClan territory. Dustpelt narrowed his eyes. They better not. It's bad enough Firestar gave them that piece of land in the first place. If I catch any ShadowClan cat on the wrong side of the border, I'll rip his fur off. They wouldn't dare, Brakenfur growled. They dared before Firestar gave them the territory, Spiderleg pointed out. He glanced at the scar on Brakenfur's flank, a reminder of one of the vicious quarrels between the two clans when they fought over the stretch of open ground on either side of the stream running down from the two-leg clearing. ShadowClan had always laid claim to the territory, and Firestar finally granted it to them at the last gathering to save further blood being spilled over a stretch of land that was too bare to offer good hunting. It wasn't worth fighting over, Stormfur commented. Firestar was right to give it up. Dustpelt snorted. ThunderClan has never given up territory before. No, agreed Brakenfur. Spiderleg turned in agitated circle, tail lashing. Brakenfur went on. However, the land was too exposed, and the two legs will be there soon, once it's Greenleaf. And ThunderClan are more used to hunting in the forest, Stormfur added. Firestar still shouldn't have given it up so easily, Spiderleg insisted. Lionkit watched them nervously from his hiding place as Spiderleg glared at Stormfur. The long-limbed black warrior was more hot-headed than his father, Dustpelt, but Stormfur refused to be intimidated. We gave up nothing but a piece of barren land that was too close to two-leg territory, he hissed. You sound like Brambleclaw. Dustpelt curled his lip. He only agreed with Firestar's decision because any cat knows he'd rather face a pack of dogs than a two-leg. Lionkit's fur bristled with anger. His father wasn't scared of anything. Brambleclaw sided with Firestar because it was a wise decision, not because he's scared of two legs, Stormfur retorted. Was it wise to stand before all the clans and announce that ThunderClan can no longer defend its boundaries? Spiderleg meowed hotly. ShadowClan have no right to set one mangy paw on ThunderClan land. Well, it's ShadowClan's land now, Stormfur concluded. Spiderleg glared at him. Of course, you don't care how much territory we give up, he snarled. You're not a ThunderClan cat. Lionkit flinched. Stormfur had fought off the invading ShadowClan warriors as fiercely as any cat. He watched closely, waiting to see how the Grey Warrior would react. But Stormfur only stared back at Spiderleg, his eyes wide with shock. Bragenfur stepped between them, his eyes glinting anxiously in the moonlight. "It doesn't matter if we disagree," he meowed. "The decision has been made." "But now ShadowClan will think they can take whatever they want from us," Spiderleg objected. "Firestar made it clear that he was doing ShadowClan a favor when he let them take the land," Brakenfur reminded him. "He left no cat in any doubt that he was acting out of wisdom rather than weakness." "Then why did One Star and Leopardstar look so interested?" Duskpelt snapped. "It was obvious they thought ThunderClan couldn't defend their territory." "What if ThunderClan decide they want a piece of the forest on the other side?" Spiderleg chipped in. "One Star hasn't exactly been a friend of ours since he became leader." "He's been okay since he helped us with the badger attack," Brakenfur pointed out. "But he's still going to be looking out for his clan," Duskpelt argued. "If he thinks we're weak, he might see a chance to expand his territory." "Can you imagine Firestar giving up any prey-rich part of our territory?" Stormfur asked. Duskpelt glared at him for a moment, then dipped his head. "No," he conceded. "And we don't know. We don't have to worry about RiverClan," Brakenfur pressed. "We share no boundaries with them, and Leopardstar's been pretty quiet since Hawkfrost died in our territory." "Does any cat really know what happened to Hawkfrost?" Stormfur asked. Only that Firestar found his body while he was on patrol with Brambleclaw and Ashfur." "Oh, they covered it up." Spiderleg meowed. Lionkit did not fully understand. He had heard Daisy and Ferncloud talking about Hawkfrost, the RiverClan deputy who had died on... He was not the RiverClan deputy. Huh? The not RiverClan deputy who had died on ThunderClan territory, impaled on a wooden spike from a fox trap. No one was sure what the RiverClan warrior had been doing there. Lionkit had tried to ask his father once about Hawkfrost. After all, Hawkfrost was Brambleclaw's half-brother, and therefore Lionkit's kin, but Brambleclaw had been reluctant to answer. The only information he would give was that Brambleclaw's squirrel flight had carried the dead RiverClan warrior back to his camp, as they would have done with any fallen warrior, and that he had been mourned by his clanmates. Spiderleg said that the story that they were given was Firestar found his body while I was on a patrol with Brambleclaw and Ashfur. As Lionkit strained to hear whether the warrior's conversation would reveal anything new, he felt the thorn barrier rustle around him. He realized with a jolt that he was right beside the small entrance that led to where the cats made their dirt, the same entrance that he, J-Kit, and Hollykit had sneaked out of in search of the fox cubs. Alarmed, Lionkit sniffed the air. Mousepaw was squeezing his way back through less than a tail length away. He shrank further back into the shadow, but he could not escape Mousepaw's sharp nose. "Lionkit?" Mousepaw hissed into the darkness. Lionkit wondered for a moment whether to bury himself deeper into the barrier, but he didn't like the look of the thorns, and besides, his pride would not let him. I'm in here, he confessed. As he spoke, Duskpelt's amber gaze flashed towards them. "Mousepaw," he called. Lionkit held his breath. Would the apprentice give him away? They had been denmates for a while in the nursery, but Mousepaw might side with the warriors now. "I'm just on my way back to the den," Mousepaw told Duskpelt. A moment later, he squeezed into Lionkit's hiding place. "Are you supposed to be in the nursery?" he whispered. Lionkit flicked his tail crossly. He was grateful that Mousepaw hadn't given him away, but he hated being treated like a feeble kit. "I couldn't sleep," he grumbled. "I'm used to having J-Kit around." Why were Duskpelt and Stormfur arguing? They were talking about Firestar's decision to give ShadowClan the bit of land by the river. Lionkit explained. Duskpelt accused Stormfur of not being a real ThunderClan warrior. Wait, what? No, he didn't. That was Spiderfur, like. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was Spiderleg. The heck? What are these inconsistencies? These dang editors aren't catching these inconsistencies. Mousepaw flattened his ears, shocked. I'm surprised that Stormfur didn't shred him. But Stormfur is not a real ThunderClan warrior, is he? Blanket pointed out, puzzled. You better not say that to his face, Mousepaw warned. But he was born in RiverClan and lived with the tribe. Mousepaw! Oh, sorry, Mousepaw! Dustpelt's voice sounded from the clearing. Mousepaw shoved Blanket further into the bush. He stifled a squeak of pain as thorns dug into his pelt, and Mousepaw squeezed out from under the branches. Shouldn't you be back in the apprentice's den? Dustpelt queried. I thought I smelt a mouse, Mousepaw lied. Straying into camp would be stupid even for a mouse, Dustpelt muttered. Go to your den. I'm sure Spiderleg won't be pleased if you're too tired for training in the morning. Yes, Dustpelt. Mousepaw dipped his head and padded quickly away. Blanket waited, thorns poking him, until Dustpelt and the other warriors headed to their den. It seemed foolish to risk going to the medicine cat's den now. As soon as he was sure no cat stirred, Blanket dragged himself out from under the thorn barrier and crept back to the nursery. Several thorns from the barrier had caught in his fur and were tangled in his pelt. They pricked him as he curled gingerly back into his nest. He closed his eyes and waited for sleep, but his conversation with Mousepaw echoed in his mind. It hadn't occurred to him before how important it was to the warriors whether a cat was truly ThunderClan or not. His own place in the clan had always been something he had taken for granted. He supposed that not every cat was lucky enough to be born in the forest, but the clan deputy and clan leader as kin. But he still didn't understand why Mousepaw had taken the quarrel between the warriors so seriously. So long as Stormfur and Brook were loyal to ThunderClan, what else mattered? Real. I think the inconsistencies definitely grow as the series go on because they shift the errands around. Like, there's more people writing and more people editing and less that they know what's going on, you know. I finished my Nanaimo bar. For some reason, I was going to call it a tiramisu bar, which is not what it is at all. Chapter 6. Sorry, I'm itching my nose. My dang itchy nose. Holika was dreaming that the nursery was filled with hedgehogs. They filed through the entrance, rudely brushing Ferncloud and her kits aside and settling into the mossy nest around her. Their sharp prickles spiked her back. She fidgeted to move away from her uncomfortable new den mates. What are you doing here? She muttered. Go away! But the prickles still dug into her. Opening her eyes, she twisted around and saw Lion Kit curled up asleep beside her. He looked like he'd fallen out of a tree, his golden pelt ruffled and studded with black thorns. She jabbed him with her forepaw. Hey, she whispered. Where did you pick up these thorns? They're ripping me to shreds. Lion Kit opened his amber eyes. What? His mouth stretched into a yawn. You're covered in thorns. Hollykit guessed he'd been out of the den. What have you been up to? She demanded. I couldn't sleep, Lion-Kit confessed. I went out for a walk in the clearing. Lion-Kit stared at him in dismay. Are we in enough trouble? Do you want to stop us from being made apprentices? It's okay, Lion-Kit soothed. No one saw me. He sat up and wiped a paw over his face. Except Mousepaw. And he won't tell. It was Mousepaw who pushed me into the thorns so Dustpelt wouldn't spot me. Hollykit hissed softly. Why doesn't he think before he acts? We'd better get those thorns out of you before anyone else sees them. They really sting, Lionkit complained, twisting around to tug one from his flank with his teeth. I'd better go to the medicine cat den and get something to treat them with, Hollykit told him. We don't want your scratches getting infected. What will you tell Leafpool? Don't worry, I'll tell her there was a thorn in your bedding and you rolled into it. She climbed out of her nest and headed towards the entrance. You start pulling out all the thorns you can reach, she instructed. I'll get the rest when I come back. Before she began to nose her way out of the den, another thought struck her. And don't leave them lying around. If Icekit and Foxkit spike themselves on one, Ferncloud will pluck your whiskers till you're bald as a bird. She ran across the clearing, relieved to find it empty. The sun was rising behind the trees and that topped the cliffs, but the camp, still in shadow, was cold. Hollykit guessed that the Dawn Patrol must have left already, and the other cats were making the most of their snug dens until the sun had reached the hollow and warmed the camp. She reached the medicine cat den unnoticed and pushed through the brambles that concealed its entrance. Leafpool was nowhere to be seen, and her scent was stale. She hurried to J-Kit's nest. Hi, Kaido, thank you for the lurk. Are you feeling better? J-Kit was curled up tight in the moss, a bundle of striped gray fur. His head shot up at the sound of Hollykit's voice, and he gazed at her with a sightless blue stare. What are you doing here? Are you confined to the nursery? Lionkit's got a thorn stuck in him, Hollykit explained. I wanted something to keep the scratch from getting infected. J-Kit nodded sleepily to the back of the den. Leafpool used Doc on my scratches, he mewed. You'll have to find it yourself. Leafpool's out collecting stinging nettles. Oh, okay, Hollykit mewed, hurrying over to the supply store. Can you remember what it smelled like? It's got a sort of tangy scent. J-Kit lifted his nose and breathed in. It's one of the piles near the front, he told her. Hollykit stared at the array of leaves and seeds. At the front there were two piles, one darker green than the other. She sniffed the darkest first. This smells kind of icky, she mewed to J-Kit. Doc doesn't have a bad smell, J-Kit told her, just sharp. Hollykit sniffed the other pile and screwed up her eyes. It was definitely tangy. She grabbed a mouthful and carried it over to J-Kit. That's the right one, he mewed. The brambles rustled at the den entrance, and Hollykit jumped. It was Leafpool, holding a bunch of nettles carefully by their stems. The dew still glistened on their jagged leaves. She dropped them and looked at Hollyleaf. You're up early. She noticed the pile of dock leaves beside Hollykit. Your brother's healing well, she meowed. He doesn't need any more treatment. He only needs rest. I'm not treating J-Kit, Hollykit explained. Lionkit's been scratched by a thorn in his bedding. Leafpool opened her eyes wide in surprise. How did you know to use Doc? Hollykit stared uncertainly at the medicine cat. J-Kit told me. She remembered the smell from when he used it to treat me, J-Kit mewed. Hollykit ran her tail across his flanks so he knew that she was grateful. It wasn't that she wanted Leafpool to think she was more clever than J-Kit. She just wanted her to see that she would make a great medicine cat. Well done, Hollykit, Leafpool meowed. Hollykit felt warm to the tip of her tail. She told herself that one day she would know which herb was which and wouldn't have to pretend. Let me show you how to apply it, Leafpool offered. She crouched over the pile of dock, taking a single leaf in her mouth and chewing it. Once it was all well chewed, she held out her paw and licked the juices from the dock into her fur. Then she spat out the remainder of the leaf. Make sure you lick it in firmly so that it seeps right into the wound, she advised. It may sting, but it will save a lot more pain later if you do it properly. Hollykit watched carefully. Do you want to try it before you go? Leafpool asked. I think I should get back to that Lionkit, Hollykit mewed, wanting to return to the nursery before Daisy and Ferncloud realized she was missing. He was pretty sore. I could come too, Leafpool offered. Hollykit was about to say yes when she hesitated. If Leafpool saw how many thorns were tangled in Lionkit's pelt, both kits would be in trouble. Thanks, but you must have things to do, she mewed. I'll come get you if I need help. Very well, Leafpool nodded. Was that a knowing glint Hollykit saw in her amber eyes? Had she guessed that Hollykit was not telling her the whole truth about Lionkit's injuries? Not eager to find out, Hollykit picked up the dock leaves in her jaw and trotted out of the medicine den. Her heart sank when she saw the camp was growing busy. Daisy had come out of the nursery and was warming herself in a spot where the sun's weak rays were just beginning to reach. Her kits huddled together outside the apprentice's den, blinking sleepily in their eyes. Blinking sleep from their eyes. They looked like a single soft cloud, Berrypaw's creamy fur merging with the gray and white of Hazelpaw and Mousepaw. Cinderpaw, Honeypaw, and Poppypaw were sharing tongues by the half-rock. So many apprentices. Their slender, dappled bodies reminded Hollykit of their mother, Sorreltail, who was nosing through the remains of yesterday's fresh kill pile with Thornclaw and Spiderleg. There's no reason they should think I don't have permission to be here, Hollykit told herself. She stalked across the clearing, nodding to the apprentices as casually as she could manage. She avoided looking at Thornclaw and Spiderleg. Her paws burned with every step, but she kept her tail high and tried not to look hurried as she approached the nursery. She reached the entrance unchallenged and scrabbled through with the dock leaves clamped tightly between her jaws. Ferncloud's voice startled her. Where have you been? Hollykit dropped the dock leaves and glanced at Lionkit. She was relieved to see that he'd gotten most of the thorns out of his pelt and smoothed down his fur enough to look as though he'd spent the whole night in his nest. I told Ferncloud about the thorn in my bedding, Lionkit put in hastily. I've brought some dock leaves for Lionkit Scratch, Hollykit explained to Ferncloud. Sorry I didn't ask first, but I didn't want to wake you. You should have waited until I was awake and asked permission, but I suppose you were only thinking of your littermate, and I can't disapprove of that. Ferncloud sighed. Though StarClan knows how thorns got into the nursery in the first place. She glanced at her two kits wriggling under her belly. You must be careful not to carry anything in on your pelts when there are small kits in the nursery. We'll be extra careful in the future, Hollykit promised. She hurried over to Lionkit with the leaves. Did you get all the thorns out? She whispered. All except for one behind my ear, Lionkit whispered back. Hollykit licked the back of Lionkit's ear and felt the thorn. Gripping it with her teeth, she tugged it out. I put the rest under the brambles at the edge of the den. He flicked his tail to the den wall near his nest. Hollykit went out and spat the thorn with the others. We can reach under from outside and drag them out later, she meowed. Now, where are the worst scratches? She began to chew up a dock leaf while Lionkit twisted and pointed his nose to a sore spot on his flank. The dock leaf tasted foul. Yuck! Hollykit screwed up her nose as she chewed. She leaned down and licked the juice onto Lionkit's scratch, just as Leafpool had shown her. As she dragged her tongue firmly across the wound, Lionkit flinched and let out a squeak of pain. Hollykit leaped back in alarm. Are you two fighting? Ferncloud asked, not looking up from her kits. No, Lionkit meowed. The dog juice just hurts, that's all. Hollykit felt her tail tremble. She couldn't do this. Seeing Lionkit's pain made her feel queasy. But she couldn't let any of his scratches get infected. And if she was going to become a medicine cat, she would have to get used to treating patients. She chewed another horrible-tasting leaf and set to work licking the juice into another scratch. Lionkit only winced this time, but it was enough to send Hollykit leaping away again. Sorry, she squeaked. Then she remembered Leafpool's advice. It may sting, but it will save a lot more pain later if you do it properly. Focusing on Leafpool's words, she carried on, forcing herself to ignore Lionkit's squeaks of pain and the sickening taste of the dock. That feels much better, Lionkit breathed as she tended to his last wound. Hollykit sat back with relief. Ferncloud looked up. Why don't you two go to the fresh kill pile and have something to eat? Daisy's in the clearing. I'm sure she'll be able to keep an eye on you and make sure you don't get yourself into any mischief. Happy to be able to leave the nursery without breaking any rules, Hollykit hurried out into the clearing, Lionkit on her heels, but the taste of dock had ruined her appetite, and she followed Lionkit to the fresh kill pile without enthusiasm. Mousepaw, Hazelpaw, and Berrypaw still sat in the flattened grass patch in the front of their den. Mousepaw could hardly keep still. Brambleclaw told me that our assessment would begin after sun high, he mewed excitedly. Hollykit pricked her ears. Daisy kits had been training for nearly 4 moons. It wouldn't be long before they would be made warriors. Who's assessing us? Berrypaw asked anxiously. Brambleclaw wouldn't tell me, Mousepaw replied. Do you think it'll be Firestar himself? Hazelpaw's tail twitched with excitement. Don't say that! Fairypaw breathed. I won't remember any of my training if I think he's watching. Can we hunt together? Hazelpaw asked. Spiderleg said it was up to us, Mousepaw reported. Ashfur and Whitewing were sharing tongues nearby. Ashfur's whiskers twitched with amusement as he overheard the apprentices talking. You'd be wiser splitting up, he called over. On your own, you might just manage to surprise your prey, but the three of you clumping through the forest will scare everything from here to the sun-drowned place. Whitewing poked him with her snowy paw. Don't tease them, Ashfur, she scolded. You were an apprentice once. You must remember how tense you were about your first assessment. Brooke trotted through the entrance, carrying 3 mice by their tails. Hollykit watched as the tribe cat dropped her catch on the fresh kill pile. Lankit helped himself to one and began to eat hungrily. Thanks, Brooke, he mewed with his mouth full. Brooke eyed him with her soft gray gaze. You should eat more slowly, she advised. In the mountains, we say that prey eaten slowly feeds us longer. Lankit looked at her in surprise. Okay. He nodded and began to chew more carefully. Hollykit watched as the mountain cat twisted to smooth down her brown tabby pelt. She always liked the sound of Brooke's mew. It was low and strange compared to the forest cats. A yowl sounded outside the camp entrance, followed by a threatening hiss. Hollykit recognized Honeypaw's voice. Honeypaw's mentor, Sandstorm, raced towards the entrance tunnel. Honeypaw, she called. What is it? Hollykit held her breath. Was the cat being attacked? Then she heard a friendly yowl of greeting. Sandstorm returned through the thorn tunnel, leading Mothwing, the River Clown medicine cat, and her apprentice, Willowpaw. Honeypaw padded after them, her tail bristling with embarrassment. I'm sorry, she mewed. I didn't realize who it was. I just smelled River Clan. Honeypaw! Sandstorm reassured her apprentice with an old nursery saying, it's better to scare off a mouse than welcome a badger. Hollykit's heart leapt like a fish at the sight of Willowpaw. She had met the medicine apprentice once before, when Mothwing had brought precious supplies of catmint from the clump that grew in a sheltered part of RiverClan territory. Leafpool had welcomed the gift, since the patch that grew near the abandoned two-leg nest in ThunderClan territory had been killed by frost. Hollykit had spoken to Willowpaw then because she wanted to find out what it was like to belong to a different clan. But this time, she wanted to find out something else, how to become a medicine cat's apprentice. While Sandstorm went to find Leafpool, Hollykit scampered across the clearing towards Willowpaw. Hello, she mewed shyly. Willowpaw, who had been looking troubled, brightened up. Hello, Hollykit, she purred. Or is it Hollypaw now? Not yet, Hollykit told her. What are you doing here? The RiverClan cats weren't carrying anything. Perhaps they came to ask for supplies in return for the catmint. Willowpaw's whiskers twitched. I had a dream, she mewed. I want Leafpool to help me interpret it. Can't Mothwing do that? Hollykit asked, confused. Willowpaw glanced at her paws. Mothwing suggested we get Leafpool's opinion. What was it about? Willowpaw looked solemn. I can't tell you until I've shared it with Leafpool. Mothwing! Willowpaw! Leafpool stood at the entrance to the medicine cat den. Welcome, come in. She waited, holding back the trailing brambles, while Mothwing and Willowpaw weaved past her into the shadows beyond. Hollykit stared wistfully after them as the leaves swished back into place. She felt a nudge in her flank and turned to see Lionkit butting her gently with his head. Why are you staring at them like a dumb rabbit? He mewed. Mothwing and Willowpaw visited the camp before. Hollykit was unable to keep her wish to herself a moment longer. I want to become a medicine cat, she blurted out. Chapter 7. A medicine cat? Lankit stared at Hollykit, bewildered. Why? There are other ways to serve your clan apart from being a warrior, Hollykit snapped. But you'd be stuck in camp with all the sick and injured cats instead of out in the forest hunting or fighting. There was no criticism in Lionkit's tone, only disbelief. Hollykit did not want to hear about what she would be missing. But think about how much I'll know, she pointed out. I'll learn all about the healing herbs and I'll be able to share dreams with StarClan. She stared at him, willing him to understand. What could be more exciting than that? Fighting ShadowClan? But I want to have dreams just like Leafpool and Willowpaw, Hollykit insisted. You already do, Lankit purred, his eyes glinting with amusement. Dreams about hedgehogs. You cheeky kit. Holly Kit squeaked in mock anger. With a small leaf, she pushed Lion Kit to the ground and began to tussle with him. What are you two doing? Squirrelflight's stern meow made Holly Kit freeze. Lion Kit struggled from her grasp, and the two kits sat up and faced their mother. If you got nothing better to do than make the fresh kill pile dusty with your fighting, you may as well get back to the nursery. But I haven't eaten yet, Holly Kit protested. Then take something with you, Squirrelflight answered, and take something for Ferncloud, too. Holly Kit hated eating in the nursery. Prey always tasted better eaten in the fresh air. But she didn't protest. She saw that Squirrelflight had already turned to look at Thornclaw, who was resting beneath the high ledge. I hope Thornclaw remembered that he's leading the Sun High Patrol. The flame-colored she-cat meowed half to herself. You better go remind him, seeing as you seem to be keeping an eye on everyone around here, Holly Kit muttered. What was that? Squirrelflight's thoughtful gaze remained on Thornclaw. Nothing, Holly Kit meowed guiltily. Don't forget Ferncloud, Squirrelflight reminded her, patting away. Holly Kit stared after her mother, feeling a surge of rebellious anger. It wouldn't be so bad if she noticed she was spoiling our fun. She's just busy, Lion Kit mewed. You know what she's like. I suppose. Holly Kit sighed. She knew she wasn't being fair. How could she criticize her mother when, in truth, she wanted to be just like her, brave and loyal and respected by her clanmates. Let's go back to the nursery. Holly Kit dragged one of Brooke's mice from the fresh kill pile. Lion Kit pulled off a thrush more than half his size and began hauling it towards the nursery. Holly Kit guessed that Ferncloud wouldn't be able to eat such a large piece of prey, but her brother never changed his mind once it was made up. Back in the nursery, she ate the mouse, giving thanks to StarClan for the food before she tucked in. When she had finished, she gave her paws and muzzle a quick lick and then lay flat on her belly to peep out under the brambles at the clearing. Lion Kit had fallen asleep beside her, and Ferncloud was trying to persuade Fox Kit and Ice Kit to try a piece of the thrush that she had softened with her teeth. Holly Kit narrowed her eyes and stared at the entrance to the medicine den, waiting for any movement. She wanted to speak to Willowpaw again. At last, the brambles twitched and Leafpool led Mothwing and Willowpaw out into the clearing. Holly Kit glanced back at Lion Kit, still sleeping, and Ferncloud, busy with her kits. As quietly as possible, she slithered out under the bramble wall of her den, dislodging the wad of leaves that Squirrelflight had pressed into place the day before. I'll fix that later, Holly Kit vowed, as she scooted across the clearing. Hello, she mewed to Willowpaw. Wait 1 second, guys. In here have a treat and also have, oh my gosh, you're so kind, thank you. I'm not sure if we have any mods in here today. We might have Peachy. Peachy might be wandering about. I do see Peachy's pop cup, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. There he is. Hi, Peachy. We love you. Anyways. Hello, she mewed to Willowpaw. Willowpaw's ears twitched. She blinked at Holly Kit, and the faraway look cleared from her gaze. Hi, she mewed. Did Leafpool help you? Willowpaw nodded. I can tell you about the dream now, if you still want to know. Holly Kit flicked her tail excitedly. Yes, please. Well, Hollypaw began, I dreamed that clouds were streaming across the sky, flowing and tumbling across the blue, and then they stopped and the sun scorched down onto RiverClan Camp, shriveling the plants and drying up the nests until there was no shelter from the burning heat. Holly Kit shuddered. What did it mean? Leafpool thought it should be a warning of trouble with our water supply, but there's been plenty of rain this leaf bear, so it probably doesn't mean a drought. She advised me to tell Leopardstar to check all the streams near the camp and make sure they are safe. Holly Kit leaned forward. How did you become a Mothwing's apprentice? She asked. I helped her with some of her patients when there was an outbreak of illness, Willowpaw told her. I enjoyed the task she gave me, so I just kept going back to the medicine den and helping out until Mothwing suggested I should become her apprentice. Did you always want to be a medicine cat? I didn't really think about it, Willowpaw admitted. It just sort of happened, and then I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Being a medicine cat is great. Hollykit opened her mouth to agree, but before she could speak, Mothwing called her apprentice away. "YEAAAAH, we're leaving." Mothwing brushed muzzles with Leafpool and headed for the thorn tunnel. YEAAAAH bounded after her. "Bye, Hollykit," she called over her shoulder. Hollykit watched the two cats disappear through the tunnel. YEAAAAH had made her even more determined to be Leafpool's apprentice. Forgetting that she was not meant to be out of the nursery, she hurried after Leafpool, following her to her den. Jacket was sprawled in his nest, the soft gray fur of his belly showing. He was clearly sleeping more comfortably than last time Hollykit had visited. Leafpool turned as Hollykit followed her in. "Do you need more herbs for Lion Kit?" Hollykit shook her head. A question fizzled at the tip of her tongue, but she was struggling for the right words. "Is something wrong?" Jacket flipped over and lifted his head. "What do you want, Hollykit?" he asked, his ears prickling as though he sensed that something important was happening. Leafpool glanced at him. "Go back to the nursery, Jacket," she mewed softly. "Am I well enough?" Jacket mewed, sitting up. "As long as you don't start play fighting the moment you get back," Leafpool warned him. "But you may as well sleep in your own nest now." Jacket got to his paws. His first steps out of his nest were a little unsteady, but he soon found his balance and padded towards the bramble-covered entrance. "Thanks, Leafpool," he mewed. The sightless gaze flicked towards Hollykit, taking her by surprise. Sometimes it was almost as if he were looking right straight at her, though she knew he couldn't see her. "I'll come and check on you at sundown," Leafpool promised him. As soon as Jacket had disappeared through the brambles, Leafpool sat down. "Now," she meowed, gazing at Hollykit, "tell me what's troubling you." "Nothing's troubling me," Hollykit answered at once, "but I have something important to ask you." A look close to alarm flashed momentarily across Leafpool's gaze. "What?" Hollykit took a deep breath. "I want to be your apprentice." She tensed as she waited for the reply. What if Leafpool refused to take her on? Leafpool looked stunned. "I never would have thought..." She stopped mid-sentence, then meowed gently. "Being a medicine cat is a big commitment. You will rarely fight in battles or go on patrol. You won't be able to take a mate or have kits." Hollykit saw her eyes darken with sadness. Was that regret she saw in those amber depths? There was no time to wonder. "What has made you want to be a medicine cat?" "I want to be able to help the clan," Hollykit told her. "If I were a medicine cat, I could heal my clanmates when they were sick, and I could share dreams with StarClan." Leafpool was still gazing at her questioningly, so she went on. "As a warrior, I could feed the clan and defend it. I would die to protect the clan if I had to. But as a warrior, I would be limited to fighting with tooth and claw. As a medicine cat, I could fight with all the knowledge and power of StarClan. What better way could there be to serve ThunderClan?" She stopped, breathless, and stared hopefully at Leafpool. Leafpool's tail twitched. "Those are all good reasons," she agreed. Hollykit's heart soared. What was she going to say yes? "But," Leafpool went on, "before I can make a decision, I must talk with Firestar." Hollykit blinked, feeling a flash of doubt, but she pushed the doubt away. She hasn't said no. "Thanks, Leafpool," she mewed. She turned and trotted from the den. Of course Leafpool would have to talk to the clan leader before making such an important decision, she thought as she bounced back across the clearing. She wriggled into the nursery and found Ferncloud asleep, her kits quiet for once. Lion-Kit was plucking the feathers from the remains of the thrush that would make good nest lining. Jacket looked up from his nest as she squeezed through the entrance. What was so secret that I had to leave the medicine cat den? "I'm going to be your apprentice," Hollykit announced. "Whose apprentice?" "Leafpool's, of course." Lion-Kit looked up from the thrush, delighted. "Did she say yes?" "Well, she's going to talk to Firestar first, of course." "You want to be a medicine cat?" Jacket meowed, putting his head to one side. "Why shouldn't I?" Hollykit demanded. "I'd hate to be stuck in the medicine cat den, worrying about sick cats and sorting out piles of old herbs." Jacket sank his claws into the moss that lined his nest. "I'd much rather be a warrior, patrolling and hunting and fighting in clan battles." Hollykit looked at her brother, fierce and proud. Firestar had to let him become a warrior. Hollykit awoke before dawn. The nursery was dark and cozy, warmed by her sleeping den mates. She lay in her nest and listened to an owl calling from the tree lakeside of the camp. She was too excited to go back to sleep. Brambleclaw had told her last night that Firestar would be going ahead with the naming ceremony after all. You've behaved well and not left the nursery without permission, he meowed as she took prey from the fresh kill pile. Hollykit glanced over to her brothers, who were already eating by the half-buried rock. What about J-Kit? Don't worry, Brambleclaw had reassured her. Firestar hasn't forgotten about J-Kit. Hollykit rolled over in her nest and stretched. By sun-high, she would know if she was to become Leafpool's apprentice. She pictured herself working in the medicine den, soothing belly aches with herbs, rubbing salves onto bruises, going out into the forest with Leafpool to gather herbs that she'd know the names of, what they smelled like, how to prepare them. Her pelt bristled at the thought of all the knowledge that would be inside her head. She closed her eyes and tried to imagine how StarClan would appear in her dreams, but instead she only saw herself, a fully fledged medicine cat, leading her own apprentice through the woods, showing one plan after the other, demonstrating all the skills and techniques Leafpool had taught her, wandering further and further into the darkening forest. Hollykit blinked open her eyes. Dawn was creeping through the knotted bramble walls. Lionkit and J-Kit were still asleep beside her. Squirrelflight's nest smelled stale and cold. She must have returned late from patrol again and chose to sleep in the warrior's den. Hollykit sat up and stretched. Awake already, Ferncloud meowed. The queen was feeding her kits, her pale gray pelts glowing softly in the half-light. I'm too excited to sleep, Hollykit mewed. You may go outside if you like, Ferncloud allowed. The dawn patrol will be back before long. They might bring warm prey. Icekit wriggled around and stared at Hollykit with round blue eyes. You won't be sleeping in the nursery tonight, she meowed. Hollykit blinked at her. No, hopefully I'll be in Leafpool's den. Oh, that was a baby talking, never mind. Foxkit pushed away from his mother. I will be in the apprentice den with Lionkit. You will be soon enough. Not soon enough. Foxkit mewed. He reached out and caught Icekit's twitching tail between his burned paws. I can't wait to be a warrior. Icekit flicked her tail away from him. Will you come back and tell us what it's like to be an apprentice? Of course, Hollykit purred. She dipped her head to their mother. Bye, Ferncloud. Foxkit and Icekit scrambled out of Ferncloud's nest. Bye, Hollykit. Icekit mewed, reaching up to push her white muzzle against Hollykit's cheek. Bye, Icekit. Hollykit bent down and licked Foxkit between the ears. Don't get in trouble. With a twinge of sadness, she turned and squeezed out of the nursery. The clearing sparked with dew. Mist clouded in the bushes and clefts that ringed the base of the enclosed rock wall. Hollykit stretched, first her forepaws, then her hind, arching her back and enjoying the fresh scents of the forest. Good morning, Squirrelflight called. She was sitting in front of the warrior's den, a paw raised, ready to wash behind her ears. Brambleclaw sat next to her. Hi, Hollykit mewed, trotting over to greet them. Brambleclaw purred loudly. It's your big day. He touched Hollykit's head with his muzzle. It sure is, Hollykit agreed, trying not to think of how close she had come to ruining her chance of being made an apprentice. The thorn barrier trembled. The dawn patrol was returning. Cloudtail emerged from the entrance with his apprentice, Cinderpaw, and Stormfur trotting behind. They each carried prey in their jaws. Brambleclaw padded away to meet them as they dropped their catch, his dark tabby pelt glistening where it had brushed dew from the branches overhanging the warrior's den. All clear? No cat has crossed the boundaries, Cloudtail reported, although WindClan and ShadowClan are keeping their markers fresh. Hollykit noticed Squirrelflight's ears prick wearily. Do you think there's a problem? Brambleclaw asked. Cloudtail looked thoughtful. No, but it feels as if they're both making an effort to remind us that they're there. You think they're showing signs of aggression? Not aggression, Cloudtail corrected, but they never used to be so thorough about marking their boundaries. Should we be stepping up patrols? Ashfur slid out of the warrior's den, making Hollykit jump. He padded towards Cloudtail and Brambleclaw, and Squirrelflight followed him, leaving Hollykit alone. We'll ignore it for now, Brambleclaw decided. Isn't that a decision for Firestar to make? Ashfur meowed. Brambleclaw looked sharply at the Grey Warrior, but Ashfur's eyes showed no disrespect, only concern. Brambleclaw nodded. I'll speak to him about it, of course, he meowed, but there's no point overreacting if ShadowClan and WindClan are just trying to provoke us. Squirrelflight looked more closely at Cloudtail. Did you refresh our boundary markers? Cloudtail nodded. Hollykit felt another pelt brush her side. Lionkit had joined her, and J-Kit was scrambling out of the nursery after him.
What's going on?
Lionkit mewed.
The Dawn Patrol's reporting back,
Hollykit told him. The idea that Shadow Clan and Wind Clan were pressing on the borders worried her, but if she was going to be a medicine cat, she must learn not to be so bothered by warrior concerns and concentrate instead on the needs of her clanmates. She glanced around the clearing. Whitewing, Spiderleg, and Thornclaw shared a pigeon beside the half-rock. Honeypaw and Poppypaw were play-fighting on the grass patch outside their den. As she watched, the apprentices stopped and looked up at the high ledge. Hollykit followed their gaze, her paws prickling with anticipation. Firestar was leaping down from the tumble of rocks that led from his den. Sandstorm nimbly picked her way after him. Hollykit's heart felt as if it flipped right over when Firestar called to the clan, "Let all cats old enough to catch their own prey gather here beneath the high ledge. It is time to fulfill a promise I made to 3 of our kits." Hollykit glanced at her brothers. This was it! The moment when they would begin serving their clan! Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight hurried towards them. Squirrelflight quickly smoothed the fur between Lionkit's ears. "Are you ready?" Brambleclaw's eyes were shining.
"Totally!"
Hollykit mewed. "Good." Brambleclaw patted away and sat beside Birchfall. Does that mean Birchfall's going to be a mentor? Hollykit wondered. Who the heck is Birchpaw? Birchfall. Birchpaw. Oh! Birchpaw! He used to be Birchpaw! Right. Okay. I'm getting used to it. I'm remembering the names. Without the warrior cat ceremonies, it's hard to remember sometimes. Birchfall was Birchkit throughout the whole journey. That's cute. This might be his first apprentice. Squirrelflight licked J-Kit's cheek. Good luck, all of you. She went to join Brambleclaw. Mousefur emerged stiffly from the elder's den, guiding her blind dead mate Longtail with her tail. Honeypaw, Poppypaw, and Berrypaw clustered together, whispering. Whitewing, Spiderleg, and Thornclaw padded over from the half-rock, leaving the remains of their meal behind. Within moments, the whole clan stood gazing at Firestar. For the first time that morning, Hollykit's excitement felt closer to anxiety. The expectation of Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight, of Firestar, of the whole clan, pressed down on her shoulders like a badger's paw. She felt the soft muzzle nudging her from behind. She turned to see Leafpool ushering her towards the circle. She searched Leafpool's eyes, but they gave no clue about what would happen next, only encouraged her forward with a gentle blink. Hollykit pushed her way between Ferncloud and Daisy and halted. Lionkit and J-Kit squirmed into place beside her. She felt herself trembling against Daisy's flank. The cream-colored queen glanced fondly at her and ran a smoothing tail over her black pelt. I gather you all for one of my favorite duties, Firestar announced. Hollykit, Lionkit, and J-Kit have reached their 6th moon. So J-Kit was going to be included in the apprentice naming ceremony after all. They have had an adventurous kithood, Firestar went on with a hint of amusement in his voice, but I hope they have learned valuable lessons, and I believe that they are ready to become apprentices. The cat meowed in approval. Firestar waited for the noise to die away before going on. Lionkit? The golden brown tabby kit bounced forward, quivering with excitement. From this day onward, until you receive your warrior name, you will be Lionpaw. Berrypaw called his name, and the other apprentices joined in. Firestar looked at the cloud-darkening sky. I asked Star Clan to watch over you and guide you until you find it in your paws and the strength and courage of a warrior. Lionpaw's eyes sparkled as he gazed up at his leader. Ashfur, Firestar called. Oh, Ashfur. The pale green Tom lifted his head. His eyes brightened, and excitement showed in the tiny twitch of his tail as he stepped forward. You mentored Birchfall, and he is a credit to his clan, Firestar meowed. Now ThunderClan asks you to prove yourself once more and as a great mentor. Ashfur dipped his head as the clan leader went on. I trust you to pass on all you have learned to Lionpaw and help him become a warrior that the clan can be proud of. I won't let ThunderClan down, Ashfur promised. Lionpaw hurried forward and raised his muzzle to touch noses with his new mentor. Hollykit! Firestar announced. Hollykit suddenly forgot to be nervous, and she raced to the center of the clearing, skidding to a halt beside Firestar. His whiskers twitched. From this day until you receive your warrior name, you will be known as Hollypaw. Hollypaw! Hollypaw! Cinderpaw led the chant this time. Hollypaw stared at the apprentices as they called her name. Berrypaw and Hazelpaw seemed so big and strong. In the nursery, she had been older than Icekid and Foxkid. Now she would be one of the youngest of her den mates. Her heart drummed like paws racing over the forest floor. Then she remembered, I might not be sleeping in the apprentices' den. Leafpool, Firestar called. Yes! Hollypaw felt so light on her paws she was afraid the breeze would carry her away over the trees. She was going to be a medicine cat apprentice. Leafpool padded forward and stopped beside Hollypaw. I know that I'm putting Hollypaw in safe paws. Firestar meowed. I pray that StarClan gives your apprentice all the strength and wisdom she will need. I will teach her everything I know, Leafpool promised. She touched Hollypaw's muzzle with hers, but she didn't meet Hollypaw's eyes. Instead, she looked past her. Her expression clouded. Surprised, Hollykit turned and saw that Leafpool was staring at Squirrelflight. She wondered why there was sadness in both cats' eyes. Jaykit marched into the clearing and stood in front of the Firestar. What about me? Jaykit, calm down. You haven't even gotten there yet. Surely he can't become an apprentice, Whitewing whispered. Comment hung in the still, damp air. Longtail moved to the Elder's Den when he went blind, Thornclaw murmured, as if he agreed that blind cats couldn't be warriors. He wouldn't be safe out in the forest. Dang. Spiderleg put in. Poor mite, breathed Sorreltail. Hollypaw's pelt bristled. Why shouldn't her brother be given a chance like any other cat? I want to be apprentice, like Leafpaw and Hollypaw, Jaykit spat defiantly. Of course you do, Firestar agreed, and your mentor will be Brightheart. Brightheart! Chapter 8. Brightheart? Jaykit felt a rush of anger so strong it almost knocked him off his paws. Why had Firestar chosen one-eyed Brightheart when there were so many other warriors to choose from? As if he couldn't guess. He dug his claws into the earth and refusing to step forward to greet his mentor. He ignored her embarrassment, although he could sense it like holly leaves prickling his pelt. He ignored the encouraging murmurs of the other apprentices. He ignored Spiderleg's angry shh, which quieted them, and then he felt a muzzle gently but firmly pushing him forward. Leafpool's voice murmured in his ear, Go on. Gritting his teeth, he padded towards Brightheart and Firestar. I know this must be hard for you, Brightheart greeted him sympathetically, but I promise I will teach you how to protect your clan even without sight. She pitied him. He could hear it in her voice. His anger swelled up again, sending blood pounding through his ears. Why bother if you think I'm so useless? Why don't you just send me off to the Elder's Den with Longtail? He hissed. Brightheart stiffened. No cat has said that you're useless, and Longtail wouldn't thank you for being so rude about him. She stepped back from Jaypaw and lifted her chin. I've asked him to help with some of your training. Jaykit lashed his tail. Oh, great, he thought. Let's lump all the useless cats together and hope a tree falls on them. I love Jaypaw. Also, they did mess up. They called Jaypaw before he was Jaykit. Before he was Jaypaw. Jaykit lashed his tail. Oh, right. Firestar stepped between Jaykit and Brightheart. From this day until you receive your warrior name, you will be Jaypaw. Jaypaw! 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 Mousepaw and Berrypaw's call rang around the hollow, and the other apprentices joined in loudly. Good job, Mousepaw and Berrypaw. They're so happy and supportive. So cute. Jaypaw clawed the ground. You don't have to try so hard. You're only doing it because you feel sorry for me. Brightheart, Firestar meowed, you have never let what happened to you prevent you from being a fine warrior. I can think of no one better than you to teach Jaypaw how to best serve his clan. I will share with him all that I have learned, Brightheart vowed. Big deal, Jaypaw thought. Reluctantly, he forced himself to touch muzzles with Brightheart, accepting her as his mentor. His whiskers brushed the side of her face that had been ravaged when she had been attacked by the dog pack. It felt strange to sense space where other cats had fur and flesh, and he had to suppress a shudder. The whole clan raised their voices to cheer the new apprentices. Not me, J-Pod thought bitterly. There's not a cat here that thinks I'll be a great warrior. When the calls died away, Firestar spoke again. ThunderClan is lucky to have so many apprentices. I hope that they will train hard and serve their clan well.
We will, Linepaw mewed. When can we start training?
Hollypaw asked. That's up to your mentors, Firestar told her. Come on, Linepaw, Ashfur meowed. Let's find you a nest in the apprentice then I'll show you the forest.
Right now?
Linepaw mewed excitedly. Why not? Hollypaw's paws pattered on the ground around Leafpool.
Can we go to Linepaw with Linepaw and Ashfur when Ashfur shows him our territory?
It's a nice idea, Hollypaw, Leafpool meowed, but I need to show you the best herb gathering places, and I'm sure Ashfur will want to show Linepaw the boundary markers and the best places for hunting.
Oh.
Hollypaw sounded disappointed. But first, let's look at the herb store, Leafpool suggested, so you can get to know some of the leaves we'll be looking at in the forest.
Okay.
Hollypaw mewed, sounding more cheerful. As Linepaw and Hollypaw patted after their mentors, J-Paw sat down crossly. How come they get real mentors? He felt Brightheart's tail touch his shoulder. Come with me, she meowed. Sullenly, he followed her to a clump of wilting grass that overflowed from a quiet alcove in the rocky camp wall. I think it's best if we start, Brightheart began. J-Paw did not listen to the rest. J-Paw! Instead, he let his attention slip until her voice had blended with the sound of the wind swishing through the branches above the hollow. He could hear Linepaw hurrying after Ashfur, eagerly following his mentor out of the camp and into the forest. Hollypaw's scent was clear beyond the bramble-draped entrance to the medicine den. J-Paw could taste the tang of the comfy she was tearing and laying out to dry. At least I'm not a medicine cat apprentice. He felt a flicker of gratitude that Hollypaw had taken that role. He went on scanning the camp. With the sureness he had possessed since his first memory, he knew that Daisy was circling her nest, preparing for a nap. Mousefur was guiding Longtail back to the Elder's Den. He sensed the old she-cat lounging longing out to be out in the forest. She was in a hunting mood, though her movements were stiff with age. Longtail patted quietly beside her, his limbs still as supple as any warrior's. It's not fair he should live in the Elder's Den, J-Paw thought. He's not old yet. Then, like a storm cloud shadowing the hollow, he sensed a darkness sweep over camp. He pricked his ears and heard claws scraping the rocky ledge outside Firestar's den. He knew by scent that it was not Firestar who sat up there, flexing his paws. It was Brambleclaw. J-Paw knew his father sat up there often, a good deputy keeping watch over his clan. But now he could sense something cold and uncomfortable, like a murky fog. In Brambleclaw's mind, he struggled to understand it, groping for the right word. Suspicion. Brambleclaw was suspicious of his clanmates. He was not watching over them, but searching for a cat he feared might betray him. J-Paw shivered, the fur on his spine lifting. Why would any cat betray Brambleclaw? He was a great deputy. He blinked, and his thoughts jerked back to Brightheart. She had jumped to her paws and was obviously waiting for him to say something. He flicked his tail, wondering how he could cover up the fact that he hadn't been paying attention. But she had already guessed that he had not been listening to a word. She snorted impatiently. We're gonna see Longtail, remember? J-Paw's heart sank. More pointless advice from a second-rate warrior. J-Paw! Okay, he mewed unenthusiastically. Brightheart sighed. Come on. Dragging his paws, he followed her across the clearing. At the entrance to the Elder's Den, Brightheart called through the spindly branches that brushed the ground around its edge. It's Brightheart and J-Paw. Come in, Liontail meowed. Brightheart ducked down under the low branch entrance and padded into the space that ringed the trunk of the honeysuckle bush. J-Paw followed, keeping his head low, uncertain for once about his surroundings. He had not been in this den before, but he knew by the scent that Longtail was alone. Mousefur must have gone out into the forest after all. Congratulations, J-Paw, Longtail purred. You've been given a great mentor. Thank you, Longtail. J-Paw heard shyness and pride in Brightheart. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Longtail. J-Paw heard shyness and pride in Brightheart's mew. Firestar has sent you quite the challenge. For your first apprentice, Brightheart, Liontail remarked. Just because I'm blind doesn't mean... J-Paw began hotly. I wasn't referring to your blindness, Longtail interrupted. I meant your attitude. What's wrong with my attitude? It's not many cats who try fox hunting before they were even out of the nursery. There was humor in Longtail's mew. J-Paw bristled. I was only trying to help my clan. But before he could point this out, Brightheart was issuing orders. First, I want you to clean up the moss and get rid of any dusty or dirty pieces, she instructed. I'll fetch some fresh for now, because you don't know the best places to gather it. Cleaning out bedding? J-Paw knew it was a routine apprentice task. He had heard Berrypaw and Hazelpaw complain about it often enough, but knowing that Lionpaw was already exploring the territory made him want to snarl. Then, Brightheart went on, check Longtail for fleas and ticks, and Mouse for 2, if she's back by then. While you're busy, Longtail can tell you about using other senses rather than sight. As if he hasn't grown up with it the whole life. J-Paw wanted to wail with frustration. He and Longtail were totally different. Longtail had lost his sight after he had been a warrior. Blindness had never been a disadvantage after relying on his sight for his whole life. Blindness must have been a disadvantage after relying on his sight for his whole life. But J-Paw had never seen the world with any other senses apart from sound, scent, and touch. Being blind was totally natural for him. How could Longtail know what that was like? He could probably give Longtail more advice than the blind cat could get him. How to pick the freshest prey from the pile, how to tell where your den mates had been by the scents on their pelts. You might as well make a start, J-Paw, Brightheart suggested. Was that impatient he heard in her mew? You'll be feeling more than impatience if you keep giving me rubbish tasks like this, he predicted mutinously. As Brightheart nosed her way out of the den, he began sorting through the moss, feeling with his paws for pieces that had grown dry and scratchy, and sniffing for pieces that were beginning to smell stale. This apprenticeship is going to be so dull, he hissed under his breath. What was that? Mousefur had padded into the den, her pelt smelling of the forest. Her paw steps were uneven, and she breathed in sharply as she sat down. You've missed a bit over there, she pointed out. He's only just started, Longtail defended him. Mousefur snorted. Does that mean we'll have him scrambling around the den till sun high? I was hoping to get some sleep. It's not my fault you're stiff, J-Paw snapped. You're the one who went out of the forest when it's damp. He felt Mousefur look closely at him. How do you know I was stiff? Could tell when you sat down, J-Paw replied, hooking out a wad of dry moss and flinging it towards the den entrance. He moved slowly and made that noise. What noise? A sort of gasp, like it hurt. A purr of amusement suddenly rumbled in the old she-cat's throat. I see Brightheart is going to have her paws full, she meowed. J-Paw felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps they'll stop underestimating quite so much once they realize it doesn't matter that I can't see. He finished sorting through the moss, then padded over to Longtail and began nosing through his fur. I bet you can't wait to start training in the forest, Longtail meowed. I remember my first time out like it was last moon. A wistful edge entered his mew. Of course, I wasn't blind then. Everything seems so green and fresh. But you'll still love it, even though you're blind. There are so many scents out there. I kind of noticed. J-Paw felt the hard body of a flea in the warrior's belt. That's one thing I've noticed about being blind, Longtail went on, since become much sharper and more important. Thanks for the information, J-Paw cracked the flea between his teeth. He's so sassy. And sounds, of course, Longtail added. I can sometimes hear the mice moving at the top of the hollow. I never would have noticed that before. You should make sure you listen really well, all the time. J-Paw began to check the fur around Longtail's struff. A tick was lodged between the warrior's ears. When it comes to hunting, it'll help you have sharp hearing and smell. Prey is always hard to see, but smelling it is easy. Even when I could see, it was usually the scent or sound of prey that told me where it was hiding. You'll be telling me that a fresh mouse tastes juicier than a stale one next, J-Paw thought, tugging the tick harder than he needed to. Ow! Longtail complained. How's it going in here? Brightheart's voice sounded at the den entrance. Have you finished? I think so. J-Paw looked hopefully towards Mousefur. You don't have any ticks, do you? Only one on my side, but I can reach it myself, she replied. J-Paw turned to his mentor. I finished then. Brightheart began bundling pawfuls of fresh moss into the den. Good. Spread this out and then come with me, she meowed. I'm going to show you the territory around the camp. At last! Hollypaw and Lionpaw had been out for ages. Good luck, Longtail called as J-Paw followed Brightheart out of the den. She led him out of the camp and up the steep slope that led lakeward. This trail leads up to the top of the ridge, Brightheart explained. It's steep. Okay. J-Paw decided not to tell her that he could already feel the slope beneath his paws. He followed his mentor as she weaved through the trees, feeling the damp leaves slippery under paw. Watch out! Brightheart called, but J-Paw could smell the bark ahead of him and swerved just in time to avoid the tree, his whiskers grazing the trunk. The trees are thick here, but there's not too much undergrowth. Oh. J-Paw breathed in the scent of a mouse trail as the ground began to flatten out. We're at the top of the ridge now, Brightheart told him. Follow my scent and I'll lead you along the crest. Right. You could tell by the slope of land that the forest fell away on either side. It felt as though they were climbing the spine of a great cat. If we go up this trail, we'll be out of the trees soon. J-Paw was beginning to feel out of breath, so he didn't reply. He listened to the flies buzzing around him and shook his head when they tickled his ears. We're out of the trees now, so don't worry about bumping into anything, Brightheart meowed. J-Paw knew they had left the cover of the forest. A light, damp wind brushed his face. Stop here, Brightheart meowed, but J-Paw had already halted, feeling the land drop steeply away at his paw tips. Scents flooded him, distant, strange smells that he didn't know yet, and he could hear the water lapping far below. He knew that they were looking out over the forest and lake. We followed the ridge out of the forest and right up to the end, Brightheart explained. The land slopes down steeply from here to the lake. RiverClan territory is across the water. Over where the sun sets is ShadowClan territory. And if you look back towards the sun, where the sun rises, you'll be able to see. She broke off abruptly. For the first time that day, J-Paw felt sorry for his mentor. She must have hoped that her first apprentice would be a healthy kid she wouldn't have to make special allowances for. If only she realized that he didn't want any special allowances, that he didn't need them. I might not be able to see what you see, he told her, but I can tell a lot from what I can hear and smell and feel. He lifted his nose. I know ShadowClan is over there, not just because the stench of them is strong enough to scare a rabbit, but because the tang of the pines tells me that there can't be much undergrowth, so the cats who hunt there must be cunning and good at stalking. He turned his head, and over there I can smell the moorland. The wind comes in a great unbroken sweep, undisturbed by trees. The WindClan cats who live there must be fast and small to hunt in such open country. Then he gazed at the lake in front of them. I know RiverClan live across the lake, though I can't smell their sun. It's hidden by the scents of the lake, which are stronger today because of the wind. But I know that RiverClan will feel the coming of rain first because the wind is driving the waves this way. I can hear them slapping against the shore. You can tell all that without seeing it? Yes, of course. Suddenly, Brightheart stiffened. She was listening intently, ears pricked. A patrol is coming, she announced. J-Paw had heard it already. A ThunderClan patrol was climbing the ridge towards them, wrestling through the bracken and heather. He knew from the sense that it was Dustpelt, Hazelpaw, Thornclaw, and Poppypaw, but he didn't say so out loud. He was pleased that he had impressed Brightheart with his description of what was around him, but he didn't want her to think he was showing off. Hi! Poppypaw bounded out of the bracken first. Thornclaw followed with Dustpelt and Hazelpaw close on his heel. You're out of camp at last! Poppypaw mewed. Isn't it great being an apprentice? Hazelpaw added. I still remember my first day. I was so excited. But your first day as an apprentice was more exciting than this. We've just done a border patrol, Hazelpaw went on. Now we're gonna do battle training in the mossy clearing, Poppypaw finished. Great. J-Paw muttered. You can come with us, Poppypaw suddenly suggested. She turned to her mentor, Thornclaw. He can come, can't he? Perhaps another day. Brightheart meowed. We haven't finished exploring our territory, she explained, addressing J-Paw as much as Poppypaw. Oh, okay, Poppypaw mewed. Where are you headed now? Thornclaw asked Brightheart. I'm going to show J-Paw the old thunder path. Thornclaw paused. You'll be careful, he cautioned. Don't stray over the ShadowClan border. J-Paw bristled. They might only have one eye between them, but they weren't idiots. They might only have one eye, but doing that. As he prepared to snarl a reply, Brightheart mewed sharply. I know a border marking when I smell it. J-Paw sensed a flash of reproach shoot from Dustbelt. Firestar trusted Brightheart with J-Paw, he reminded Thornclaw quietly. Thornclaw's paws rustled on the leafy forest floor. Of course, he acknowledged. Sorry, Brightheart. Brightheart met his apology with a stony silence, and J-Paw felt a prick of satisfaction that he wasn't the only one who felt patronized by the other warriors. Aw, poor Brightheart, poor J-Paw. There's a steep slope ahead of us, Brightheart warned as they set off. You don't say! J-Paw bit back the sharp reply, feeling the curve of the ground under his paws. Can you manage it? Of course I can. Angrily, J-Paw stepped forward. To his surprise, the ground dropped away much steeply than he expected, and he half fell, half skidded down the muddy slope, scrambling to slow his descent until a clump of heather slowed it for him. Are you okay? Brightheart panted, catching up with him. J-Paw struggled out of the heather, then gave his chest a couple of brisk licks. I'm fine, he mewed. That was quite a tumble. We can rest if you want. Brightheart offered. I told you I'm fine, J-Paw hissed. He shook the last scraps of heather from his felt. Which way now? He could feel Brightheart looking closely at him, but she didn't say anything else about his fall. Come on, she mewed. We can head around to the old thunder path from here. J-Paw padded after her, furious with himself for losing his footing so easily just when Brightheart seemed to be treating him like a normal apprentice. The wind had picked up by the time they reached the old thunder path. J-Paw smelled rain on its way. We'll head back to the camp from here, Brightheart told him when they reached the gap in the trees where two legs had once cut a path, now overgrown and deserted. There must be more ThunderClan territory than this, J-Paw objected. Too much to explore today, Brightheart meowed. Crossly, J-Paw turned away from the thunder path and followed Brightheart back into the trees. He didn't believe that they couldn't circle the whole territory in one day. Brightheart obviously thought he wouldn't be able to cope with a long day out of camp. They padded through the trees. Rain was beginning to fall, splattering on the leaves above them. J-Paw looked up just as a raindrop found its way through the canopy and splashed onto his nose. He shivered and shook off the wetness. Perhaps it was not so bad that they were going back to the hollow. The rain was cold, and the wind that carried it over the lake even colder. He heard Brightheart's step quicken and guessed she might be feeling the same way. Then he stiffened. There was another scent on the breeze, sharper than the rain and the leaves. Memories flooded him of his terrifying dash through the forest. Fox! Another sniff showed it was the same fox that had chased him over the edge of the hollow, with the scent of earth and bracken in his pelt. And it was close. J-Paw dropped into a defensive crouch and opened his mouth to warn Brightheart, but her fear scent told him that she had smelt the creature already. We must find Thornclaw's patrol, she hissed. J-Paw sniffed the air, searching for a scent trace of the patrol. It would tell them which way to run. With relief, he picked up a faint smell, but it was too late. The bracken up ahead rustled, and the fox hurled itself out and charged towards them. J-Paw's heart almost burst with fear. The fox cub's paws pounded on the forest floor. Its stench was stronger, and its snarl was deeper than he remembered. The fox had grown since their last encounter. Run! Brightheart ordered, throwing herself between the fox and J-Paw. I won't leave you, J-Paw yowled. I can fight. He heard the clack of teeth as the fox snapped at Brightheart. She hissed, her paws skidding as she dodged. The fox's pain screech told J-Paw that she had caught it with a claw as it had lunged past. A rush of air tugged his fur as the fox darted past him. He twisted, claws unsheathed, and prepared to lunge forward. The fox was scrambling to turn on the slippery leaves for another attack. J-Paw leaped, spitting, but something tugged him back. His tail was caught in a bramble bush. He collapsed on the ground, dragged back by the thorns. A heavy paw landed on his back, knocking the wind from him. The fox had thundered straight over him, headed once more for Brightheart. The one-eyed warrior screeched, anger and fear combined, and J-Paw froze with terror. Then he heard Thornclaw's yowl, only rabbit lengths away. The patrol had come. The air filled with the battle cries as warriors and apprentices streamed into the clearing, ears flattened and claws unsheathed. The fox let out an angry yelp and raced into the trees, with Dustpetal and Hazelpaw pounding after it. J-Paw struggled to his paws, yanking his tail to unsnag it from the bramble bush. J-Paw! Poppypaw was at his side. Are you okay? He wrenched his tail free with the sound of ripping fur. I'm fine, he snapped. Did the fox hurt you? Brightheart called. Japo was relieved to hear his mentor. He smelled no blood on her, and her voice was strong. The fox had not wounded her. Don't tell me you tried to fight the fox, Thornclaw demanded. You should have run for help. I couldn't leave Brightheart alone with it, Japo objected. I thought you would have learned by now that you're no match for a fox, Thornclaw growled. Japo curled his lip but said nothing. Is your tail okay? Poppypaw asked sympathetically. Japo lashed it over the leaf-covered ground, ignoring the pain of the thorns still stuck in it. I'm fine, he muttered. The whole patrol must have seen him struggling like a helpless kid, defeated by a bramble bush. A hot wave of embarrassment washed over him from nose to tail. Will Dustpelt and Hazelpaw be all right? All right, he asked. They'll chase the fox away from the camp, Thornclaw told him. I don't think it'll turn on them. Not after the fright we gave it. We should get Brightheart and Japaw back to camp and send a patrol after them, Poppypaw suggested. Good idea, Thornclaw agreed. The rain eased as dusk began to chill the air. Japaw lay pressed into the same sheltered clump of grass where Brightheart had taken him that morning. He wanted to be alone, and the thorny wall of the warrior's den hid him from the rest of the camp. But now Lionpaw had returned with Ashfur. He could hear them at the center of the clearing. Where's Japaw? Lionpaw sounded worried. Hollypaw answered from outside the medicine cat's den. I haven't seen him, but Brightheart's back. He must be in camp. Shall we ask her where she is? Japaw didn't want Brightheart to tell them what an idiot he had made himself of today. He slipped out and headed Hollypaw and Lionpaw off at the fresh kill pile. There you are, Hollypaw called. Hi, Japaw muttered. He padded past them and pulled a mouse from the top of the pile. Hollypaw followed him and picked up a sparrow. She dropped it on the ground next to Japaw while Lionpaw rooted among the prey until he found the fresh-smelling body of a vole. I caught this myself, he announced proudly, tossing it onto the ground beside Hollypaw. You caught prey on your first day? Hollypaw sounded impressed. Well, Lionpaw admitted, Ashfur spotted it and showed me how to stalk it. He probably held it down for you to finish it off, Japaw growled. There was a moment of silence, then Hollypaw brushed her tail over Japaw's pelt. I heard you ran into trouble, she mewed. It could have happened to any cat. Japaw shrugged away her tail. But it happened to me, he growled. It's only your first day, Lionpaw reminded him. Yes, and you caught a vole on your first day, didn't you? Hollypaw sniffed at the thorns in Japaw's tail and plucked at one with her teeth. I can do that myself, Japaw hissed, flicking his tail away from her. Do you want some herbs? She offered. I know which ones will soothe the pain and stop infection. There was pride in her mew. No need. Japaw took a bite of mouse, but it felt dry and tasteless. He nudged the mouse over to Lionpaw with his muzzle. Here, you finish it. I'm not hungry. Wait, Lionpaw began, but Japaw patted gloomily away. He headed towards the apprentice's den, which was underneath a bushy yew tree growing close to the wall of the hollow. It took him a moment to figure out where the entrance was, and when he had, he nosed his way in cautiously. The unfamiliar scents confused him, moss-rich with the smell of different apprentices, the strong tang of yew sap. He had no idea what lay around him and where he should lie down. Hey, Japaw! Hazelpaw's mew came from the far side of the den. There's no one here but me. Just head towards my voice. There's some clean moss next to my nest where you can sleep. Japaw was too tired and miserable to make a fuss about being helped. Gratefully, he padded towards Hazelpaw's nest, and as he did, the scents around him began to fall into place. Like a flight of birds settling one by one into a tree, he smelled Poppypaw's scent, so stale that she had clearly not been here since sunrise. Berrypaw's nest had been slept in more recently, and Honeypaw's smelt warm as though she'd just left it. Japaw weaved cautiously among the little patches of scent until he found the clean moss beside Hazelpaw. Thanks, he murmured, settling down. No problem, she answered sleepily. He was glad she sounded too tired to talk. Right now, all he wanted to do was tuck his nose under his paw and sleep. Aww. Ugh. What's your grave error, Cordy? Oh, my back is all cracky. I wanted to do something with a friend's model for a toggle, but I already set the bones for it. No! Evil. If I tried messing with it, I'd need to restart. No, I'm so sorry. That's so sad. Guys, I'm torn. Should I read another chapter? I've already read 128 pages. But I want to read more. How long is the next chapter? Next chapter is kind of long. Next chapter is like 10 pages. The trials and tribulations. I'm incredibly invested. I mean, the book is longer than the others. Whatever you want to do. Well, the thing is, I'm not going to be able to read next week, so I want to be able to read as much as I can, you know? I want to read more. Okay, I'm going to read more just because next week we don't get to read because I'll be away. Chapter 9. Silver Plout glittered overhead as J-Paw followed the narrow valley upward. He glanced up at the jagged rocks that lined his path, sharp as fox teeth. Ahead, a stream danced down the mountainside, sparkling in the moonlight. A cold breeze whisked down from the gray peaks and set his fur rippling like water. It felt as though he had been following this stony path for days, and still he had to follow the stream upward into the mountains. A paw jabbed his side, catching him painfully between the ribs. J-Paw flinched. He blinked open his eyes and saw only darkness. He had been dreaming. The paw jabbed him again. "Watch out," he complained. "Sorry," Lion Paw apologized. "Why are you so fidgety this morning?" J-Paw lifted his muzzle. He could only smell dew on leaves and guessed that it was hardly dawn. Only Lion Paw and Berry Paw were stirring. "We're going on border patrol with Ashfur and Brambleclaw," Lion Paw explained excitedly. "Big deal." J-Paw muttered. "Brambleclaw's only taking you because nothing happens on board the borders these days." "What about ShadowClan and WindClan leaving extra scent markers?" "Are you scared of smells?" J-Paw snapped back. Lion Paw flinched away from him. "I'm sorry," J-Paw murmured. "I'm sure it'll be great." "Yeah," Lion Paw agreed quietly. "I'll see you later." Without another word, he padded out of the den, followed by Berry Paw. Aw. J-Paw wriggled deeper into his nest. Cold now, Lion Paw had gone. He tried to go back to his dream, but sleep would not come again. The fresh scent of dawn was filtering slowly into the den when Mousepaw and Hazelpaw began to yawn and stretch. Hazelpaw nudged J-Paw. "Stop pretending to be asleep," she mewed. J-Paw lifted his head reluctantly. "Has Berry Paw gone already?" she asked him. "Yep." "Oh, well." Hazelpaw sounded disappointed at missing her brother. "I'll see him at battle training." "Hazelpaw!" Dustpelt's deep growl sounded through the den entrance. "The fresh kill pile's empty. Bring Mousepaw. We're going hunting." Hazelpaw's tail fluffed up. "Great!" she mewed. "I thought I was going to have to spend the morning cleaning out the elders' den." "Why would they ask you to do that when they've got me?" J-Paw thought as she disappeared from the den with Mousepaw. "These kids have more important duties than me. They're not even clan-born." "Hi, J-Paw," Poppypaw called. "How was your first night in the apprentice den?" "Fine," J-Paw mewed half-heartedly. Cinderpaw was stirring too. "What are you doing today?" she asked. "Well, I'm not patrolling and I'm not hunting," J-Paw informed her. "Perhaps Brightheart has planned battle training for you?" Poppypaw suggested. "Oh, I hope so," Cinderpaw put in. "We're training in the clearing this morning. It'll be great if you could come too." J-Paw did not answer. "I hope we see you there," Poppypaw called over her shoulder as she headed out of her den. "And rabbits might fly," J-Paw muttered to himself. Only Honeypaw remained in the den, and she was fast asleep. J-Paw wasn't going to wait for her to wake up and start chirping like a fledgling about what duty she was looking forward to. Instead, he crept from his nest and ducked out of the den. The frosty ground beneath his paws told him that the skies were clear today. The camp was already busy, even though the sun had not yet begun to warm the hollow. Firestar stood with Breakinfur and Spiderleg, organizing hunting parties and border patrols. Leafpool was headed for the nursery, and Squirrelflight was sharing tongues with Stormfur and Brook. There was no sign of Brightheart. She'd probably forgotten J-Paw and had gone on dawn patrol without him. Resentment rose like bile in his throat. Oh, sure, I'm not useless. He hurried across the clearing to the tunnel leading to where the cats made dirt. As he emerged, he scented Sandstorm headed for camp. There was no time to go back. Instead, he dived forward and plunged behind a clump of bracken. Sandstorm's paw steps halted, and J-Paw could hear her sniffing the air. He held his breath, praying to StarClan she couldn't see him. She paused a moment more and then carried on back through the tunnel and into the camp. J-Paw let out a sigh of relief and scrambled out of the bracken, shaking scrapes of dried leaf from his ear. He quickly found the path that he and Brightheart had taken yesterday. If Brightheart wasn't going to show him the whole of ThunderClan territory, he would explore it by himself. He would start by going further towards the lake. He had never been that far, and the fresh scents of the wind and water excited him. It was easy enough climbing the slope and following the ridge again, and when he came to the end of it, he was prepared this time for the steepness of the slope. He scrabbled down, using his claws to slow his descent, and when he reached the heather bush that had stopped him last time, he headed away from the thunder path, in the opposite direction from the one they had taken yesterday. J-Paw followed the side of the ridge down through the trees. Weaving his way through the undergrowth was easy. He just followed his whiskers, padding confidently over the leaf-strewn forest floor, but gradually the trees and undergrowth began to thin out and the slope flattened. The ground became soft, no longer covered with leaves, but springy with moss. Heather brushed past his pelt. He tasted the air, wondering how far from the lake he was. Yesterday, the wind had flown in over the water, and he had smelled it quite clearly, but today the wind blew from ThunderClan territory, giving no clue about the land ahead. He listened for the slapping of water on the shore, but it sounded very distant, and it was hard to tell where it was coming from. Suddenly, his forepaws slipped into a dip in the ground. He had stumbled into a rabbit hole. His paw twisted beneath him, and pain shot up his leg. Wincing, he scrambled out of the hole and licked his paws. It was not badly hurt, but it was several moments before he dared test it on the ground. This isn't like the woodland at all. For the first time, he wondered if exploring on his own had been a good idea. But he was determined to reach the lake by himself. Gingerly, he lowered his paw, relieved when it was able to take his weight. He padded forward cautiously, shivering as water from the boggy ground seeped up and soaked the fur between his claws. Suddenly, his forepaws sank deep into the peaty earth. Freezing mud soaked his legs up to his chest. "StarClan, help me!" He scrambled backwards, his hindpaws gripping desperately into the solid ground behind him. With a frantic heave, he freed his forepaws from the sucking mud and twisted his whole body, grabbing for the nearest clump of heather. He scrambled in among its bristling branches and stood trembling on its sturdy web of roots. "I must test the ground before I step forward," he warned himself, his heart pounding so loud that it drowned out the noise of the waves and the wind. He reached out a tentative paw and poked the ground on the other side of the heather. It felt springy with moss, but firm. And he slipped out from the heather and wearily padded forward. Concentrating hard, he felt his way forward, one slow paw step at a time, always staying within reach of heather, something to cling on if he lost his footing again. Little by little, the ground under paw grew firmer and drier. The land was sloping up again, and he sensed space opening before him. Sure now, he began to relax. He sniffed the air. The wind still blew from behind him, carrying the familiar scent of home. He wondered for a moment if he should go back, but he pushed the thought away. "I won't give up." He tried to build the image of the landscape in his mind, storing it so that the next time he was here he could travel more confidently. The springy moss was turning to smooth grass under paw. He could hear the rustling of the forest far behind him. The sound of the lake rippling in the wind was louder now, making his paws prick with excitement. He quickened his pace, beginning to enjoy the freedom of the open space, the sun warm on his face, the wind tugging his fur. Happily, he sniffed the air again. WindClan! Alarm gripped him. The scent of WindClan cats was so strong here that it covered his own, and yet he hadn't heard any movement around him. He was sure there were no cats nearby. Had he strayed across the border without realizing? Confused, he twisted around, hunting for the scent of home. He stepped backwards, frightened, and without warning the land disappeared. He thrashed her with his paws, trying to grasp some branch or rock, but there was nothing but a sheer, empty drop beneath him. Then he hit water. The shock of the cold water knocked the breath from him, so that he found himself flailing beneath the waves, his lungs screaming for air while he struggled to work out which way was up. J-Paw tried to wail out loud, but water filled his mouth and eyes and ears. "I'm gonna drown!" Suddenly, a sharp tug on his scruff dragged him backwards. Something was heaving him through the water. Instinctively, he stopped struggling and fell limp like a kit in its mother's jaws. He let himself be wrenched upward until, his chest bursting, he broke the surface. In his first gulp of air, he swallowed a mouthful of water, which made him cough and splutter until he thought he was going to be sick. "Keep still!" a voice hissed through clenched teeth. J-Paw felt himself being tugged awkwardly through the rippling waves. His paws churned in the water as he felt for the bottom. "Stop wriggling!" the voice hissed again, and J-Paw suddenly felt pebbles scrape against his pelt as his rescuer hauled him out of the water and onto the stony beach. He collapsed, retching and gasping. Paws began to work on his chest, pumping the water out from him. "Will you be okay?" The anxious mew of a young cat sounded close by. J-Paw was too shocked to make sense of the sense around him. "Who's there? Are you warriors?" he rasped. "What do you mean?" The voice sounded puzzled, then shocked. "He can't see." "What in the name of Starkland is he doing out here by himself?" J-Paw heard a deeper voice and recognized the angry hiss of his rescuer. A rough tongue began to lick him, massaging his cold body. Another tongue joined in, and he closed his eyes again and lay helpless, weak in shock, letting the rhythmic strokes soothe and warm him. As his mind cleared, he realized the cats were WindClan. Their scent was the same one that had blown to him across the moorland the day before, and there were 4 of them, 2 older, 2 younger, warriors and their apprentices. "Will he be okay, Whitetail?" one of the apprentices mewed. She crept forward and crouched beside J-Paw. He could feel her pelt trembling against his. "He'll be fine, Heatherpaw." Not his rescuer, but a gentle voice, a mew of a female warrior. "Can you hear me?" J-Paw nodded. Clumsily, he dragged himself into a sitting position. His ears were full of water, and he shook his head to clear them. Pebbles cracked as WindClan cats leapt away from the droplets that sprayed from the waterlogged fur. "Typical that a ThunderClan cat should thank us by trying to drown us." J-Paw had not heard this mew before. He guessed it belonged to the other apprentice, a Tom by the sound of it. The older Tom growled a stern reply. "Stop making a fuss, Breezepaw. It's only a few drops of water." J-Paw felt warm breath on his cheek as the warrior leaned in close. "What is it you are doing so far from your camp?" he demanded. "Is anyone with you?" "Be gentle, Crowfeather," Whitetail pleaded. He had a bad shock. J-Paw felt a soft tongue lick his ear. "You're safe now, little one." J-Paw relaxed against her, sheltering from the wind in her warm, dry fur. "I'm Whitetail," the she-warrior went on. "This is Crowfeather, and these are apprentices, Heatherpaw and Breezepaw. We won't hurt you." "I think he might have guessed that by the way we just saved his life," Breezepaw muttered. "I wish you would teach your son some manners, Crowfeather." Whitetail mewed sharply. She turned her attention back to J-Paw. "What were you doing out here alone? Did you know you were headed for WindClan territory? Are you in trouble?" "I will be," J-Paw mewed under his breath. "I should hope so," Crowfeather snapped. "What was your clan thinking letting you wander off like that?" Heatherpaw leaned in closer, brushing J-Paw's pelt with her whiskers. "Can you see anything at all?" she asked curiously. Breezepaw snorted. "If he can, he must be stupid, walking off the edge of a cliff." "I didn't walk off the edge," J-Paw hissed. "Looked like it from where we were standing," Breezepaw sniffed. "Be quiet, Breezepaw," Crowfeather scolded. Breezepaw fell silent, but J-Paw could hear his tail twitching crossly over the pebbles. "I suppose I better take him back to ThunderClan," Crowfeather meowed. "Are you well enough to travel?" he asked J-Paw. J-Paw nodded. His legs still felt shaky, but he wasn't going to give Breezepaw the satisfaction of mocking a ThunderClan cat again. He stood up. "Thank you for rescuing me, but I can find my own way home," he mewed politely. "There's no way I'm letting you wander off by yourself again," Crowfeather insisted. "Whitetail, you take Heatherpaw and Breezepaw back to camp." He laid his tail firmly on J-Paw's shoulder and began to guide him up the beach. See your medicine cat as soon as you get home, Whitetail called after him. Crowfeather hardly spoke as they trekked back into ThunderClan territory and headed towards the camp. He only meowed curt warnings when they came across rabbit holes or roots that might trip the ThunderClan apprentice. Japo was content with the silence. The ground was unfamiliar, and he was too furious to concentrate on anything but Crowfeather's occasional instructions. He resented Crowfeather's tail resting lightly on his shoulder, but he did not complain. He was in far too much trouble already. Once again, his attempt to prove he was good as any other cat had ended in disaster. I know this place, he thought suddenly. The sloping earth beneath his paws was strewn with twigs. Trees rustled overhead. They were nearing the top of the hollow. J-Paw's heart sank. How was he going to explain why he wasn't with Brightheart? What would his father say? He scented a ThunderClan patrol and realized that Squirrelflight, Stormfur, and Brook were headed straight for them. He tensed his shoulders. Crowfeather? Stormfur's surprised mew sounded from the break-in ahead. Paws raced towards them. J-Paw! Squirrelflight's mew was shrill with relief and anger as she pressed her muzzle into his damp fur. What in Starkland happened to you? She licked him ferociously between the ears. Where did you find him? She asked Crowfeather. He'd wandered into WindClan territory, Crowfeather explained gruffly. Had to fish him out of the lake. J-Paw bowed his head, his pelt burning with embarrassment. To make it worse, he could tell Squirrelflight was feeling an awkwardness that strengthened as Crowfeather went on. Do your kits always go out by themselves? I'm not a kid, I'm an apprentice, J-Paw snapped. He felt his mother's tail brush his muzzle, silencing him. Crowfeather, she meowed coolly. I believe WindClan once had cats who went wandering further than they should. Her mew was laced with a menace, with meaning that J-Paw didn't understand, but Crowfeather clearly did. The WindClan warrior flicked his tail away from J-Paw's shoulder and snorted. You should get him back to camp, he meowed. He almost drowned. The water was freezing. Yes, I should. Squirrelflight agreed. She nudged J-Paw down the slope that led to the thorn barrier. To J-Paw's surprise, Crowfeather accompanied them back to the hollow. Squirrelflight did not question it, and J-Paw sensed positive joy in Stormfur's step as he padded alongside the WindClan warrior. Brook fell into step beside great J-Paw. Do not be ashamed, she purred in his ear. I got up to far worse when I was still in training. She pressed her warm flank against his cold, wet pelt. He knew the mountain cat was trying to make him feel better, but it didn't help. Suddenly, he heard the thorn barrier rustle, and Mousepaw rushed out of the camp entrance. You found him, the apprentice called, delighted. Squirrelflight sighed. Yes, we found him. Go find Brightheart's patrol and tell her to stop searching, Stormfur told Mousepaw, and ask Cloudtail if you can take Cinderpaw with you. Yes, Stormfur, Mousepaw mewed, dashing back into the camp. Squirrelflight led the way through the tunnel. J-Paw clenched his claws and followed her into camp. Go straight for Leafpool, Stormfur advised him softly. I'll come and see you once I've spoken to Brambleclaw, Squirrelflight mewed. He'll want to know you're safe. Feeling lower than a worm's belly, J-Paw slunk towards the medicine cat's den. Crowfeather padded after him. J-Paw blinked in confusion. Was the WindClan warrior determined to follow him wherever he wants? Surely Crowfeather had no business with ThunderClan's medicine cat. But he wasn't going to challenge the warrior. Instead, he tried to sense what Crowfeather was feeling. But it was like trying to reach into a bramble bush. He could sense nothing but prickles. Leafpool spun around as J-Paw padded through the entrance to her den. She hurried to his side, and he felt her relief like a blast of air. You're safe. She tensed suddenly, jerking her head to stare at Crowfeather as he pushed his way through the brambles. J-Paw's fur prickled as tension set the air crackling like lightning in Greenleaf. Hello, Crowfeather, Leafpool meowed. She sounded as though she had a burr caught in her throat. Leafpool. Crowfeather's greeting was curt, but for the first time J-Paw sensed some feeling other than irritation stir beneath the WindClan warrior's pelt. I was out with Breezepaw and his mentor when we found him. Leafpool stiffened. Your son's an apprentice already. Her mew was brittle. He is, Crowfeather replied, his voice strangely flat. This is the awkwardest conversation ever. J-Paw! Hollypaw rushed up and rubbed her muzzle against his cheek. You look half drowned. Tiredness suddenly swept through J-Paw, and he let himself sink down to the ground. Fetch some thyme, Hollypaw, Leafpool ordered. Hollypaw darted away to the back of the den and returned a moment later, breathless and flustered, her jaws full of leaves. J-Paw recognized the sense of fever flu, not time. He hardly needs cooling down. Leafpool meowed impatiently. She hurried to the herb pile herself and grabbed a mouthful of thyme. Crowfeather stood and watched silently. And why am I giving him thyme? Leafpool prompted Hollypaw, dropping the leaves beside J-Paw. To make him warm? Hollypaw ventured. Leafpool shook her head. You can warm him by laying next to him, she meowed. Hollypaw crouched down and pressed her body against J-Paw's. Leafpool nosed the thyme towards J-Paw. The thyme will calm him and help with the shock, she explained. She licked J-Paw's cheek. Eat them all, she encouraged. They don't taste too bad, and I'll send Hollypaw for a nice fresh mouse to wash the taste away once you've begun to warm up. J-Paw swallowed the leaves without complaint. He felt too cold and too tired to object to anything. He let his eyes close and felt the warmth of his sister's body seep into his. He was still vaguely aware of the piercing emotion that raced between Crowfeather and Leafpool, but even that slid away as he slipped into the comforting stillness of sleep.
YEAAAAH! Coo, 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 coo.
We almost read half the book. But to be fair, we have to wait 2 weeks until I keep reading, which is 2 weeks too many. But alas, we have to end because I must eat my dinny din dins. And yes, my dinny din dins. Dunn has messaged me. What time stream? Oh yeah, we're streaming tomorrow. I'm streaming tomorrow with Dunn. 3 or 4 p.m. PST work. I don't know what we're streaming. I don't think he knows either. I'm gonna try and push for Terraria. I don't know. I feel like I'm in a little Terraria mood. What am I gonna do for 2 weeks? That's a good question. Technically, it's only 1 week and a half because it's only next week that I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm gonna be on vacation next week, and then the week after that, I'm free. What week is that? So I'm gonna be away the 14th to the 20th. So on the 24th, will I be? Okay, on the 24th, I'll be late because I think I have a dentist appointment on the 24th. But I will read because I love to read, and this is my favorite books. Let's see. What did he said nothing to me. No, you have a lovely night. I'm gonna go fully work on things and need a tutorial up. I'm gonna end anyway, so don't worry about it. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I had a lot of fun reading. I'm already like really captivated in the story, of course. Because, you know, I want to read all of it. The hard part is, like, sometimes after stream, I'm like, I wish I could read more. But I know if I read more, like, if I read it and then reread it, I don't know, it just wouldn't be the same, you know? I have to really experience it, like, live. Okay, let's see. Who's streaming? I think Bim is playing Pokemon? I can't actually tell. This is my guess based off of a very small image. Let's see if I'm right.
Let's see if I'm right.
Nope, he's playing Party Animals, but that's still a good game. We're gonna raid Bimstar.
What is that cute little guy? Thank you for hanging out with me, you guys.
Say hi to Bim for me. Let me switch to the ending screen.
Bum, bum, bum. Blah, blah, blah. Bum, 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 bum.
tomorrow we're gonna be streaming something probably either at 3 or 4 p.m. And then I want to try and stream on Friday too, because I don't think I'll be able to stream on Saturday, and then I'll be away for a week. Dun, 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 dun. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom.